Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. As the Combine finished up yesterday, some news in NFC East land. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Monday morning, brother?
Doing well. We know who the athletes are. Now comes the hard part, trying to find the good football players.
Yes, sir. It's a good way to put it, Johnny Mac. I like the way you worded that up. Any players just from the weekend stick out to you? I know we talked about the Thursday defensive line and linebacker guys, but you had offensive linemen yesterday. You had quarterback, running back, and wide receivers. And then you had secondary last week as well. So anybody jump off the page? Any players sticking out to you as you dive deeper into the draft prep for this year?
Well, I think, obviously we're talking about the athletes, as I just mentioned. So I think the kid from Missouri, the offensive tackle, Armand Membu, he really showed up from a standpoint of, you look at him from an athleticism standpoint, say, all right, that guy's going to shoot up the boards. We talk about a lot about Shamar Stewart earlier in the week. Your guy, Tyler Booker, now he's going down because he was not the athlete that many expected, or at least not that they thought that he was, going to be Lane Johnson. But I think there's sort of a level you have to hit typically to be a good NFL player, and he didn't hit that landmark from an athletic standpoint. And then Will Campbell has been a big deal. I think you start talking about arm measurements, and that being a big thing with tackles, and his arm length was really short, which becomes a problem for NFL teams. And these are the kind of things and then it was interesting from the quarterback standpoint, Milroe's hands growing about an inch. I don't know how that happened.
I mean, what is that about?
I mean, you can stretch, you can do some exercise and get a little, but that was a massive increase.
Half an inch is I mean, it takes years to grow your hand.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one where the whole thing is 9-inch hands are basically the low bar to be an NFL quarterback in most people's minds. And he was under that. Now, all of a sudden, he's over it. But one thing I keep hearing about, boy, this quarterback class is brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody I text who's got no skin in the game, mainly former scouts, not involved with teams right now. They're like, this is not the year you want a quarterback. And there's a bunch of teams that want a quarterback. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do. It really is. That obviously is not an Eagles problem, but it is a New York Giants problem, and they might keep making bad
organization problem, John. And we've talked about that. It's kind of been a theme this offseason where, our free agents going to get priced out because of bad teams.
Yeah.
Our good players going to fall down the board because bad teams or bad organizations are willing to take picks on quarterbacks and stuff like that. So I think it's something to watch for sure.
Yeah, Cam Ward's comfortably going to go at the top of the draft, even though he doesn't belong there. But after that,
I will say I feel a little better about Cam Ward than the rest of the crew.
Oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. He's a legit first round pick. I probably he'd be more in the Kenny Pickett range for me than number one. But there's a good chance he's going to go number one overall because of the desperation there is. And not to Tennessee necessarily, but if they trade out and everything from that possibility, and even though they need a quarterback, well, let's be honest, they don't have their answer, but they don't seem to be gung ho on Cam Ward. So we'll see. Maybe that's just trying to get more, take him a 2 or 3, that type of thing. And that's a possibility for them. But then after that, man, I would not take a quarterback in the first round. Any quarterback after Cam Ward. Any. And I know people have heard the Sanders talk all year. Yeah. They probably think that dude's not a first round pick. Not a first round. And I can see an Aaron Rodgers situation. I could see him going top 5 because of the bad organizations you just talked about and the desperation. And if he doesn't go, if he gets past that first group, probably the Raiders, I could see him falling a long, long way. That's so anytime you have a quarterback class that looks as poor on paper as this one, it creates some options. And then, if you look at free agency standpoint, tomorrow's the last day. You can put the franchise tag on people. I don't think Minnesota's going to put the franchise tag on Sam Darnold. So he'll be the top guy, unless you want to talk about Aaron Rodgers. But do you really want to pay Sam Darnold $40 million a year?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough conversation. Now, you'll be competent at the bare minimum with Sam Darnold versus one of these rookies,
right,
which can get really ugly, and then comes in, especially if you look at the New York Giants and Joe Shane. He can't afford to look really ugly.
No, I mean, he's coaching for his job, and he knows that. So I think he's going to trade up to the 1 pick and take Cam Ward. Or I guess they're talking about Aaron Rodgers down to the Giants. I mean.
Well, that's what I mean. If you want to keep your job, you almost have to go Aaron Rodgers over Cam. You're not keeping your job with Cam Ward unless you talk John Marion to, well, it's his first year. Understand it's going to be. You already did that last year.
Right.
Can you get – maybe you can, but – not a good situation to be in.
Yeah, tough one there. So we'll see how it all shakes out, though. A couple other good players for the combine stuck out to me. We'll get into all of those. We have Jeff Kerr coming up at 8:20. I don't want to bog our whole first segment down. I do want to talk to Johnny Mack about Deebo Samuel gets traded, John, to the Washington Commanders for a 5th-round pick. Your initial thoughts, your initial reaction to that move. Commanders are going to be aggressive, John, and it started already.
Yeah, well, my first reaction is don't compare Jahan Dotson to Deebo Samuel. I mean, people have to understand you're trading a contract as well as a player.
Right.
I mean, but how did Howie give up a 3rd-round pick and they get it? The contract. Come on, we got to elevate we got to elevate these conversations.
Yeah, right. I'm not giving you a 3rd and taking on a $20 million.
Yeah. I mean, come on, guys. And that's for the group that went down that low-hanging fruit route. And by the way, I think I've said it. I think he proved in the playoffs a little bit. He can play.
Yeah.
Much better 3rd receiver. Now, the Eagles don't use their 3rd receiver. That's more of a legitimate conversation. If you don't use your 3rd receiver, should you really be giving up that type of pick? And there was a pick coming back as well that factors into it. That's a more legitimate conversation. But I saw a bunch of people going, oh, they got to pay. Come on. That contract. But for the player himself, I mean, if this were 2 years ago, I'd be concerned from an Eagles standpoint. He did not look like Deebo Samuel last season at all. He did not look like – and I remember when he wanted out of San Francisco the first time, Jody and I would talk about it. I said, you better be careful what you wish for because there aren't many coaches that are going to – he's a manufactured touch guy.
Yeah.
This ain't a guy who's going to run routes and get open as an outside receiver. And you take – now, Cliff Kingsbury's one of those guys too. He can probably figure it out a little bit better. But I would say at the time in San Francisco, there's very few people that were going to use him as effectively as Kyle Shanahan.
I know. I saw like Emmanuel Acho put out, and now he has a chance to be in that system. I'm like, now Kyle Shanahan's not a great play caller?
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I mean, come on.
This is a manufactured touch player. This is not Justin Jefferson. This is not a guy who's going to burn you with route running down the field. This is a guy who needs the bubble screens and the motion and the reverses and even lining up in the backfield as a running back and getting him the football that way. So yeah, I'm not as concerned. It's a big name. I know some Eagles fans are concerned, not concerned at all. I mean, it tells me a lot that San Francisco, which is a good organization, not that I haven't made mistakes, are saying, yeah, gotta take the player. Tells me a lot.
Yeah, well, I think they're also in a little bit of recoup mode, John, from those 3 first-rounders they gave up for Trey Lance. I mean, eventually that comes back to bite you. I think they're kind of –
well, there's an example of a bad quarterback decision, by the way.
I know. So true. But, I'm kind of with you. I tweeted out. It doesn't really move me much, the deal. I don't dislike the player. I just don't think he's that much of a game changer. Now, maybe Cliff uses them perfectly. But again, it doesn't really sway me much. But what I will say is I think the Commanders are going to be very aggressive all offseason. I think that was just the first pin to drop. And
yeah, well, they're in the mode where they have a young quarterback who's successful and cheap on his cost-effective deal relatively, so you can afford to make some of these deals where maybe you can't if your quarterback is in that second contract in that big money era. So
I just don't really get that. Like, I would have rather paid T. Higgins if I was them, but maybe that's a little bit more.
He's a better receiver, but Cincinnati, I think, is still trying to figure out. Now, obviously, they're a cash poor team, so it's difficult for them, and they know what's coming down the road with Jamar Chase. So but I still think they're trying to work things out with T. Higgins, and we'll see how that works out. Whereas San Francisco wanted to get out of the Deebo Samuel business, which tells me a lot. That I just don't think, if this is 2021 Deebo Samuel, things move fast in the NFL.
I know, man. And he did not look like the same guy last year.
He did not at all. Now, maybe there's some injury issues, and maybe he gets healthier, and maybe I'm eating these words, but I'm not concerned about this at all. I think it's a bad move from Washington, from the player standpoint. I think it makes sense if they think he's, again, he can recapture that. I have no problem with giving up a 5th-round pick for that contract where Washington is in their sort of, cycle with the quarterback. This is exactly the time you would do that. I just don't think the player is what he was. And there's a big difference between 2021 and 2025 in the NFL. And he looked like he fell off the cliff last year.
I know. Now, how much of their, I guess that doesn't really matter. How much of their contract are they going to end up paying out? Is it the full thing? Like, I don't know how. That's where it gets fishy, right? We have a player like that, you trade him. I mean,
yeah, they traded for the contract. It wasn't that sort of salary dump deal that you see in the NBA. That's becoming more of a thing in the NFL. This wasn't a dump. It was a dump from San Francisco's standpoint.
Right, but they're not eating any of the contract. No. Washington's picking that sucker up.
Okay. Exactly. So that's why they only got a 5th-round pick for him. The more you're willing to eat from the contract standpoint, the higher that pick is going to go.
Right. Like, I'll give you a 4th if you eat, 30% of the contract. That's not what they were willing to do. So, interesting move, though, man, John. I think this NFC East is going to get – look, everybody's going to start to be more aggressive. I mean, Eagles are sitting at the top of the mountain. And honestly, if you're another GM in this division or this conference – you're probably looking at the Eagles like, damn, they're far. Like, they're way ahead of us right now. So people are going to be aggressive. People are going to make moves. Now, the question is, will they make the right moves? I don't really look at Deebo Samuel and think that's the right move, but small price.
I'm the same thing. Now, I do like Adam Peters. It's only 1 year. I think he did a very good job. I think he comes from San Francisco. That's part of the reason as well. They have that relationship. Right. But I think he's shown good signs of being a good GM and knowing what he's doing. But, I still think this is a 2-horse race because the other 2 teams just make bad decision after bad decision. Right. And I could see it already developing with the New York Giants again in this quarterback situation. It seems they put all their eggs.
It's going to happen, John. The Giants are going to make a head scratcher. We all know it.
It seems like they put all their eggs in the Matthew Stafford basket. And when Matthew Stafford decided to go back to the Rams, they're scrambling already. I always talk about contingencies and Howie Roseman. And you got to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D lined up. And you got to pivot, bang, bang, bang. Seems like, oh, my God, we didn't get Stafford. Let's go talk to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, might work out, but that'd be a situation of better being lucky than good. Or boy, I mean, trading up to get Cam Ward. Ugh. I mean, why didn't you trade up last year in the quarterback draft?
I know. When your 8-year-old son told you to. No, I know. I mean, look, there's going to be a lot of decisions that are made that are not going to be good. So we'll talk about them all through the offseason. Should be an interesting time. this is where I think Howie, John, is just leaps ahead of everybody. Everybody's going to make mistakes with plan A, right? That's just part of being a GM. It's plan B, C, D, and E where the great GMs prevail. And if you look at some of our best moves, John, and what made this team a Super Bowl team, they weren't plan A. A lot of it wasn't plan A.
No,
You talk about it all the time.
I
mean, it's interesting to see, but we will talk about all of that. John, one other thing I want to talk to you about before Jeff Kerr checks in with us is that Jordan Davis option that's upcoming here. Howie will have 2 months to make a decision here. Jordan was the 13th overall pick. Howie has till May 2nd to decide whether or not to pick up that fifth-year option. It's $12.938 million for that 2026 season. How do you see this playing out? What do you think the right move is here? And what do you think the Eagles will end up doing with Jordan Davis?
You still have time. I think people don't understand. If you decline the fifth-year option, you still have the whole fourth year to work something else out. Right now, as the Eagles are using him and have used him, and now it's a pretty large sample size. And I've been talking about this player since the day he was drafted with Jody. I called it esoteric on the night they drafted. I said, I don't know if this is going to go over because people expect certain things out of the 13th overall pick, right, and you're probably not going to get them. And I'm talking about sacks and things like that. This is a run-stuffing player. Now, I think there was some hope there would be more development in the pass rush, better push. I always compared him to Haloti Ngata, not the Haloti Ngata that was here at the end of his career, but the all-pro Haloti Ngata. And if he developed to that level, I said that's going to be a good pick. It might not be the sexiest pick in the world, but that's going to be a good pick. Hasn't really developed to that level. If you look at just from a playing standpoint, playing time standpoint, here's the numbers. Jalen Carter, 1,067 snaps this past year through the Super Bowl. Now, he had that tremendous spike up, tremendous season. Then came Milton at 653. Then I think this blows people's minds. Number 3 was Moro Ajomo, 490. And then came Jordan Davis, 444.
That's a lot of snaps for Moro Ajomo. Makes you feel better about losing Milton, though.
Yeah, Moro's. I said it last week on the show. I think he's got a lot of potential. One of the things that he's very young. He entered college when he was 16.
Yeah.
It's back in Nigeria. That was interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Moro Ajomo. Was that like I don't know what it is, the prime minister or president?
President
of Nigeria. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got to meet with him, got to be honored for winning the Super Bowl. So that was pretty cool. But he's really young. He was undersized for a defensive tackle. It's funny when you call 6'3", 295-pound guys undersized, but they are in the modern NFL. So, and Vic kind of, if you listen to Vic all year, he would mention that all the time with Moro. He's undersized, but he's getting bigger. He's gotten a lot bigger since he's gotten here. He's a natural pass rusher. And here's the thing with Vic Fangio that I said this last week on the show. It's pretty simple with Vic. Can you stop the run with a front with 4 guys on the front? If you can, that's what he's going to play. If you can't, then he starts playing more 5-man fronts. And even if you look at week 3 in New Orleans, when they were struggling a little bit, New Orleans looked like they were going to be the best rushing team in history after 2 games. He rolled out the 6-man front and completely shut down the Saints. He will do what he needs to do. But by the second half of the season, the Eagles were having no problem, for the most part, stopping the run with a 4-man front. So Jordan Davis played less. Ironically, he showed a little bit as a pass rusher, probably the best he's ever been in the playoffs. But if you're pushing, I wouldn't give him a 5th-year option.
You would say no?
I wouldn't, because you can't pay $13 million to which is basically what it is, to a guy who plays 35-40% of the snaps, especially when you got Jalen Carter's contract coming down the pike. So I wouldn't do it, but that's not necessarily a death knell. I think people think it's a death knell. You can work out a deal.
Yeah.
You can work out a deal more commensurate with his role.
By the way, I don't think, is there even any world where Howie would just say, all right, we pick up the 5th-year option and there's no other deal attached to it. Like, I don't think Howie would do that. Like, I could see a Devontae
No,
Smith type of deal done where he combines that 5th-year option, maybe gives him a 3-year, $36 million, $33 or $30 million extension, works that 5th-year option and lessens the cap hit, and it's a manageable role player. I could see that.
Yeah, and he's done that in the past where he's folded in the 5th-year option with an extension, and that would be the long. Basically, it's a placeholder. There's no way he's bringing up back Jordan Davis for 1 year at 12.9 million. Now, could he exercise the option as a placeholder as he gets something else done? Yes. But if it came down to just the 5th-year option, I'm like, nah, I can't do that. But there's other options, which I think too many don't understand. So, but day one, I knew Jordan Davis was going to be a question because people expect sacks when you're the 13th overall pick, and this is not a sack-based player. This is a run-stuffing player.
Yeah, well done. You have been on point with Jordan Davis from the jump, Johnny Mac. Good stuff there. We're going to get to Jeff Kerr in a second. I got one super chat, John, and the people in the chat have been waiting to bring this up. I had to make them wait at least 20 minutes to do it, but here we go, John. Jeff, if this takes longer than I thought, I apologize. Reflection says, I need J-Mac's thoughts on the Elimination Chamber. I think there was a big WWE event this weekend, John. I didn't catch it live, but I did see it all over my Twitter timeline.
Yeah, you saw it all over your Twitter. Yeah. I always say
people what they want, Johnny Mac. Your take.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I always say pro wrestling, for the losers like me that make pro wrestling, there's nothing better when it's done right. There's nothing better when it's done right. And it was done right over the weekend. They made WrestleMania, which is coming up in Las Vegas in April, as big as it could possibly be, and that's what you're looking for. For those who don't know, John Cena, who's been like the biggest baby face for 20 plus years, Mr. Make-A-Wish turned heel. Kids are crying. When you touch those nerves,
yeah, right.
You hit the home run. They hit the home run.
Give it to us in 60 seconds. You just did kind of, but 60 seconds. What's the storyline now for the April event? John Cena is now
the storyline is John Cena sold his soul to The Rock. And Cody Rhodes, the babyface, told Rock to go fuck himself. And there's my cursive word of the day, but that's what they said. So it's a quote. It's what Cody Rhodes said. So, Rock sort of stands above everyone as he's a part of it. It's real life sort of mixing with the fantasy world of pro wrestling. For those who don't know, Dwayne Johnson's part of the board of TKO, which owns WWE and UFC. So the storyline is he's the final boss. He's the guy in charge. And he wanted Cody Rhodes to be his corporate sort of champion. And Cody told him to go F himself. And he told John Cena to put him down.
I saw that video in the timeline.
The throat slash.
Yeah, the throat slash. All right, good stuff there, everybody. We appreciate everybody being here today on Birds 365. Don't forget to hit that like button. We got a great crowd in here. We recapped the combine a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about that with Jeff Kerr coming up, Jordan Davis's option, and Deebo Samuel in the NFC East. Get ready, everybody. Everybody's now chasing the birds. All right. When you get to the top of the mountain, you approach things differently as when you're climbing that mountain. So we'll see what the Eagles do to answer some of these moves the other teams are making. Let's get to Jeff Kerr. Before I do that, I want to give you guys a quick live read on BetUS. Let me tell you guys about the great people at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Use the promo code YouTube150. You get 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit. You get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. Let's go to our main man, Jeff Kerr, joining the show here on Birds 365 on this Monday morning. Jeff, how you doing on this Monday, brother? We appreciate you being here. How was your weekend?
Good. I'll say this. I'm not a WWE fan, but I do watch stuff like the Elimination Chamber. Entertaining stuff, McMullen.
Yeah, I'm telling you, when they click, there's nothing better. Now, when they're not clicking, it can be embarrassing to be a wrestling fan. But when they're clicking, and it's always, I can always tell by my wife because, if I'm watching something, she'll walk by and shake her head like, "What are you doing, dude?" But when Dwayne's out there, when Dwayne Johnson's out there, The Rock, when John Cena's out there, because they've become such big stars in Hollywood. Then she's interested. Then she'll sit down and watch. So, yeah, when you have that sort of star power and they hit the home run with the storyline, yeah, it can be
Mrs.
special.
McMullen is our barometer for entertaining. I love it. I love it.
Last year at the WrestleMania party, I go to my buddy's WrestleMania party every year, and I always like to kick the hornet's nest. When they were doing the whole finish the story with Cody Rhodes, I'm like, finish the scripted story.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a big Cody Rhodes guy.
I'm not either.
I think
he has a punchable face. He really does.
Yeah,
Jody, the Cody Rhodes guy on the show, he was, right?
Yeah.
Or no.
Yeah. No, Jody loved Cody. Jody loved Cody.
I thought.
Cody's insufferable. But I'm a grown man, so I generally don't like baby faces. But I think everybody knows who The Rock is in the world now. One of the most famous people in the world. And John Cena has become a big star himself in Hollywood. So they've kind of transcended pro wrestling. And when they come back, because they don't have to come back, but they love the industry. And they love the industry because when stuff like that happens, it's electric.
It's been good to them too.
Yeah, it's been very good to them.
Yeah, that's putting it mildly there, Jeff.
Yeah. And it says something because Dave Bautista is also former wrestler's become a big star in Hollywood. So, when you're doing stuff, maybe that's the way to get some practice, get some live practice reps, as they say. Yeah.
What do you think Vic Fangio would have thought of John Cena's heel turn on?
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe I'll talk to Vic about wrestling. There's a lot of NFL people who are big. Lane Johnson.
Vic, a wrestling guy, I would not.
I don't know. Yeah. I've never asked. I was talking about Mauro Ciampa. He's got a belt. He's got a Steve Austin jacket up in his locker. A lot of guys like Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson did the thing with when they were here for WrestleMania. And Lane would be, he would be the biggest, I would say, wrestling fan.
I still miss Fletch because him and I would talk
about.
Fletch
was a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, he was a big wrestling guy.
Benny Curry, I should mention. Benny Curry loves pro wrestling.
Yeah, Fletch and I would talk about that. We talk about racing. Now I got Jordan Davis to talk about racing, so we're all good there. But yeah, Fletch, man, you can talk to him about anything. He'd be like, "Oh, did you see this? See this? Yeah, I saw it."
And they love when they bring the belt around. They all love when they bring the belt around. And they generally give. There might be something going on because of Tony Khan, because the NFL. WWE pretty much gives championship belts to whoever wins a major championship. It could be NHL, it could be NBA, Major League. They always give, and they even have they have legacy belts, they call them, where you can buy, if you're a Phillies fan, you could buy a Phillies belt. If you're a Flyers fan, you could buy a Flyers belt. If there are any Sixers fans left, you can buy a Sixers belt. And you can buy an Eagles belt. However, they used to give them to them like in the locker room after, and they didn't do that this year. And I'm wondering if Tony nixed that as an NFL owner, saying, "Hey, come on, we can't do that." But I don't know if that's the case.
John, not going too far off tangent here, but do you think AEW helped the WWE get better?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No question. But now Tony's screwed. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't roll out Dwayne Johnson and John Cena, and then Travis Scott is there for nothing, for no reason other than he's a big star, sort of like Dennis Rodman back in the day. Yeah, you can't compete with that.
I tell people all the time, and look, I know I work for a rival network, but if you are a WWE fan, I tell everybody, get Peacock. Just get it. You're going to get all that stuff and not pay that price.
Yeah, Peacock's not bad too. They have some good original stuff. Yeah, and it pays for itself if you're a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I get guys in the bowling alley all fired up Monday night because I have a Netflix subscription, so and now they got smart TVs in there. So I'm like, you guys can put on Raw. Like, use the password.
You got to be careful. Netflix is cutting down, man. You can't.
So is Disney. I have like 4 TVs subscribed to Disney Plus in my household. They're like, this isn't the household TV. I'm like, it's the same household.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all trying to clamor as much money out of everybody as they possibly can.
Well, that's their own fault because they decided way before they needed to that streaming was the future, and now they're paying for it.
Yeah, they are paying for it. And by the way, that's NFL related because it's just streaming is just not. People want to watch shit on television. Now, I do think it is changing because as older people age out, unfortunately, younger people do tend to shift more toward streaming. But boy, man, the streaming numbers are not great compared to the regular linear TV.
I have an editor that gets really upset with me because we're watching NFL games on Sundays and I'm like 3 minutes ahead. I said, that's your fault. That ain't my fault.
Yeah.
I always say, if you want to watch everything on delay, go for streaming.
See, it's interesting because, my dad is obviously older and he's a cable guy. This year, he started watching the Eagles games on streaming because the one TV in his house that he would stream a game was way ahead of the TV that was on cable. And he wanted to watch on cable, but he liked to be as close to the real time as possible. So he started watching on that TV. I'm like, I thought it was the other way around. I thought streaming was behind, but on his house, it was streaming was ahead. So it's interesting.
See, I'm fortunate where I live. I'm not in the Comcast, like Time Warner conglomerate. I have a really small cable company. It's very local, but they're very good. It's a little pricey, but they're very good. And I always say, like, if I ever would move out of this area, I'd be like, what am I going to do? Like this cable company is not going to be here. I'm going to have to join the Comcast conglomerate.
I also think streaming now is like much higher quality if you have the right TV and everything up to speed of where it should be. I think the quality is now much better. So that factors in, but it all depends on the equipment. It depends on everything.
It'll cost you a few G's, but once you do it.
Hey, Zander, you probably know this. Did you know there's a Wi-Fi 7?
No, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. Like, I bought a new router and they're like, well, you want Wi-Fi 7. I'm like, what do I have? Like 4 or 5? They're like 5. I'm like, whoa, okay.
Yeah. I don't, that to me is like the Johnson rod at the car place. Oh, you need a new Johnson rod. You need 7. Yeah. I need Wi-Fi 7. Oh, yeah.
They've been telling me that for years. All I tell them is I need the best Wi-Fi you got. And every time I still got issues. So I'm not buying any of it.
I tell these guys all the time, just talk to me like I'm 5 and we'll be okay.
Yeah. Oh, you need this. You need that. You don't, especially if your wife or significant other or somebody's there, you got to pretend like you're not the dumbest person in the world. Oh yeah, I need a new Johnson rod. So anyway.
All right, Jeff, let me ask you about something that happened in the NFC East. We'll dive into the combine, some of the Eagles news, Jordan Davis, all those things. But I do want to start with Deebo Samuel to the NFC East. Your initial reaction to that move. I think everybody's going to get aggressive now, Jeff. The Eagles are at the top of the mountain and everybody's climbing to try and join them at the mountaintop. Your thoughts on the Commanders making the move, trading for Deebo Samuel? Your initial reaction?
I'm very intrigued by the move. I think that's a good piece for their offense. I think what Cliff Kingsbury does with that offense is going to help. But a word of caution to Commanders fans. Deebo Samuel was not good last year.
He was not. That's what I said, man.
He was terrible. He was not good. You act like you heisted the 49ers for a 5th-round pick. I'm like, no, that's honestly, he probably was worth less than that because he's just not that good anymore. And I'm not saying he can't be good next year, but you're basically getting rid – the 49ers got rid of some trash that they just didn't want. And they're not paying the guy, $25 million a year to pretty much average 54 yards a game. That ain't good enough. And I think the 49ers came out pretty good in that deal. It could work for the Commanders. I think it will, but don't expect the Deebo Samuel from 2019 or 2021 or 2022.
Yeah, I said that's what I said. If this were Debo from 2021, I might be concerned, but this is not the same player. Now, I don't know if there was some kind of injury or something, but this was not the same player. And maybe there can be a bounce back, but the guy who was out there at the end of last season wasn't very good. Period. I mean,
It's garbage.
I'm not going to go garbage, but I'm going to go below average. It just wasn't that good. And I think that's one of the reasons San Francisco is like, all right, yeah, we'll, remember, they're not giving Washington money. They're giving them the contract. So for a lot of people, and I brought this up in the first Penn State reference of the day for Eagles fans, how can Howie give up a 3rd round pick for Jahan Dotson and Debo only gets a 5th round pick? I'm like, Jahan's on a rookie deal versus a guy making all the money Debo Samuel is. We got to elevate this conversation.
That 3rd round pick seemed worth it in the playoffs.
Super Bowl.
Yeah, it did.
And they got something back too. It's not just the Eagles got a draft.
It was like a swap, right? To a fifth. Yeah, I ate a little bit of crow because I was kind of hard on Jahan earlier in the year, and he just didn't get the ball enough.
I think he can play. I think he can play, but I don't think he's a top 2 receiver in the league. I don't think he should have been the 16th pick in the draft, but compared to Quez Watkins and some of the other stuff they rolled out at 3rd receiver, I think the Eagles got an upgrade in Jahan Dotson. Now, the problem is, and I think the legitimate criticism is, they don't use their 3rd receiver. And if you don't use your 3rd receiver, why are you giving up what they gave up? That part I can entertain at least a little bit. But
I thought they overpaid, but I thought they had to overpay.
Yeah. But yeah, and he's very cost effective on the rookie deal for the most part. And they got one more year of that. And then you start talking about the 5th year option, which obviously they're not going to pick up. But yeah, I
you could bring him back.
Yeah, of course. We were talking about Jordan Davis. I wouldn't pick up the 5th year option on Jordan Davis, but that doesn't mean you can't bring him back.
Exactly. And look, I will say this. At least the 5th year option for Jordan Davis isn't too egregious. Like I think you could pay that. What was it? 12 million?
12.9.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it because you're already paying a bunch of people, but I'm not going to be against it.
Yeah, I saw the number and I wasn't too dissuaded. And I'm not out on Jordan Davis, but I'm not the biggest fan of Jordan Davis. I thought at 13 million, keep the band together for another year. But
that's another thing. There's no way they're letting him play out his contract. Something's going to get done. Something's going to get done. So, could they use it as a placeholder? Yes, but something's going to get done. I would not use it as a placeholder. It's a run stopper. I'm not paying a run stopper 13 million.
No, I'm not either. But I do think Jordan Davis will be on this team past this season.
Yeah, but John, with that line of thinking, I mean, can't you say the same? Like, I'm not paying a run stuffer 13. Well, I'm not using the 13th pick to draft a run stuffer. That's kind of what the
that's fair. So. And hey, I said it the night of the draft. That's a fair criticism.
But didn't they already tell us though that they value that more than maybe you or I? I'm with you. I wouldn't either, John. But the Eagles kind of showed that they maybe would be willing to. That's where I'm wondering if.
I think they expected more. Okay. Not what other people expected, like my buddy Paul Domowitz, who I love, but he's talking about him moving outside because of his athleticism. This guy ain't moving outside. But I think the Eagles were hoping to get more of that interior push, like Haloti Ngata, that type of player in his prime. And we haven't seen that. We did see it a little bit in the playoffs. He was pretty good. But the way the NFL's going, here's my problem, guys. Everybody's putting these NASCAR packages on obvious passing downs. Everybody. You got 4 pass rushers. You don't even have defensive tackles on a lot of teams out there on 3rd and long, 3rd and even 7 or 8. Obvious passing situations. So it's limited from that standpoint, just the way the league is going. Even if Jordan Davis turns into a good interior pass rusher on first and second down, he's coming off the field on third down because you want 4 guys who can get after it and that's everybody. That's not just the Eagles.
And there's nothing wrong with that either.
No, it's the way it's going. But you have all these undersized bodies rushing the passer inside, and I think the Eagles are going that way as well. Moro Ojomo played more than Jordan Davis last year.
And he's better pass rusher than Jordan Davis.
Yeah, that's why.
And Jordan had a great NFC Championship and Super Bowl getting to the quarterback.
Yeah, but he did.
If the Eagles could get that, like not that level of production, but consistent level of production for a 17-game season, yeah, I probably pay Jordan Davis.
My point with that is even when he did it in the play, he's not playing on third down.
Yeah,
he's not playing on third and long.
I think the NFC Championship sack was on first down, and I think I'm trying to remember the Super Bowl. Was it second down he got his sack or half sack? I can't
I'd
remember.
have to go back. But
let me ask you about this. What would be the bigger question inside the Eagles organization right now? Would it be, are we willing to pay that or work a deal for that type of a player? Or is it, are we expecting Jordan Davis to be more than he was in the first 3 years of his career? Meaning, if we lose Milton, can he be more of a traditional defensive tackle? Or is that the question? Or is the question, do we value what he does enough to pay this money?
In my eyes, man, this is where it gets really tough because I don't think he's ever going to be a Milton Williams type player. But I think he could be a huge part of this defense. But I still think you're going to have to replenish somewhere in there. And maybe it's more Ojomo internally, but if you're going to keep Jordan Davis around, this is where I think getting an edge rusher is a big deal, whether it's whoever. Myles Garrett.
Get Myles Garrett.
Yeah, Myles Garrett. Yeah.
That becomes more difficult to pay 13, but who knows?
Yeah, what my wild card is, and I have to would look to see if it would be a fit for Fangio, but he gets injured a lot. Chase Young, I still would take a flyer on that guy.
Yeah, I know.
I mentioned him earlier in the offseason draft. I got grilled. Let me tell you, I got grilled.
If you're looking to be smart with your money and try to get bang for your buck like Zach Bond, that might be the guy.
I'll tell you, and when you talk, I think the first guy, and boy, you talk about, there's a lot of over there. Yeah, and I was just looking him up. That's the first guy, and it's overblown. You know what the scouting combine, Jeff. So-and-so met with the Eagles. So
big deal. Yeah. Zander Krause met with the Eagles.
Exactly. But, he's a big 6'6", 300, almost the exact same size as Jordan Davis. Not the same type of prospect Jordan was coming out, but you can already see how his contingencies bubble up. All right, if I'm not going to have this guy, I need to find some other 6'5", 340-pound guy. He's always got, again, plan B, plan C, plan D, and he's already working on them. And that's where somebody like that might fit in down the road if you are going to lose Jordan Davis at some point. Always working ahead.
I mean, that's what my free agency 5 moves the Eagles should do in free agency or this offseason is coming out tomorrow. And my last one was you might need to be looking for a long-term replacement for Dallas Goedert, and it might be in this draft.
Yeah, I've been talking about that, because of the eerie similarities to the 2018 draft after they won the Super Bowl, where that was the Lamar Jackson draft, and the Eagles traded out at 32. They traded down, then they traded back up to get Dallas Goedert at tight end. And they had Zach Ertz at the time. And Zach Ertz was 2 years younger, basically, at that point than Dallas Goedert is now.
Yeah, and Goddard's going to be, what, 30? Is he 30 now?
Yeah, he's either 30 or about to turn 30.
Yeah, and it's my whole philosophy. I know the Eagles try to disprove it as much as they can, but you can't pay everybody.
Yeah, and he turned 30 on January 3rd, so he's already 30. Yeah, they're going to get a tight end. This is a good tight end draft. They're going to get a tight end somewhere in this draft. And it might be the second round.
So I was laughing because I had a couple people tell me the Eagles were meeting with tight ends. I'm like, well, I hope they're meeting with tight ends at the combine. I really hope they're talking to the Tyler Warrens and the Colton Lovelands of the world. And there's more than them, by the way. But
But for those people who say they're going to move on from Dallas Goedert right away,
no,
it's possible because of his contract. But boy, he played well when he came back.
Yeah, he did. He was huge in the play. Now, I would keep Dallas this year. I would just
So would I. So would I.
It'd be like a Zach Ertz Goddard thing. You just keep him around. He's part of the core, and then you make that decision when you got to make that decision.
Yeah.
By the way, John, would you keep Slay?
Boy, that's a tough one.
I think I would.
I found that's one of mine. Find a way to keep him around.
I think you got it. I mean, here's my problem with Slay, and I was almost calling for Slay to be gone last year. All right. What is the alternative? Because now you're at the mountaintop. You're not climbing anymore. You have to sustain the excellence that you set last season. What's your alternative? Are you going to pay Isaiah Rodgers and expect the same level of production on the outside? Are you going to put the faith in Keely Ringo and hope that he can be? Are you going to sign a free agent? I think that's unlikely. Are you going to draft someone in the first couple of rounds? I think that's unlikely with the way the draft went last year. I think the only alternative that gives you a good replacement or a comparable level of talent compared to last year is to bring Slay back and then probably have him with another good backup, like I guess it could be Ringo or maybe Rodgers returns, something like that. I think Slay coming back makes the most sense here.
And my thing is, too, he's a captain of this team. He's well respected on the defense. Quinyon Mitchell loves him. Cooper DeJean loves him. Like he's a leader. You know,
right.
People don't view him as the leader that they want, but he's a leader on this team. And I think he deserves to have his career end here. Like, I don't want to see end in Detroit or ball. And I know Detroit is giving him a lot, and he'd still be competing for a Super Bowl, but he wants one more year. I know he probably doesn't think he'll be here, but I'm kind of hoping it is.
Boy, I'm torn on this one because I love Slay personally. I'm with you. I don't think people understand. I always tell the Devin Allen story. When Devin was here and nobody knew him, he just came in. He's trying to make the transition from track back to football. And he was running at the Penn Relays, and Slay got a bunch of teammates together to go support this kid they barely even knew because he's a member of the team, trying to, bring him into the team, ingratiate him to the team. He's a great leader. He's a great person. But how he, you got to make difficult decisions. This is a 35-year-old cornerback. History tells you what that is.
We'll be 35 on January 1st. But yes.
Yeah.
They're in the playoffs next season. Thank you. I'll say this: if he comes back, he's got to be in Stephon Gilmore mode, and by that I mean 1 year. I think Gilmore signed for $8 million. So say the cap went up, so maybe 1 year, $10 million. If he's willing to do that, yeah, run it back. But if he still wants Slay money, if he wants 15, 16, 17.
Yeah, can't do that.
Yeah, same player. And if you designate him as a post-June 1st cut, I think you save $4.8 million on the cap. Whereas you restructure, it really doesn't affect it either way. That's what I'm saying. Well, maybe he will take. We'll see though.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm very high on Keely Ringo. So, and how he keeps saying we got to play young players. Throw them in the deep end of the pool. Worked last year, maybe it works again this year. He's been here. Worked with Quinyon and Cooper DeJean, and they weren't even here. Now they're higher level prospects, obviously, but Vic will figure it out.
John, he's going
to get thrown into the pool, though, because Slay's not going to play 100% of the snaps. Here's the thing, though. When Slay's on the field, he still played pretty damn good last year.
I know he did.
That's the one thing I struggle with, John, is do you get rid of him, and then you hope Keely can be great full-time?
It's not necessarily hope. You're evaluating. You drafted him. You brought him up. Vic talked about, Jeff probably remembers this when he talked about guys who are really good on special teams, that tend to be really good on defense. And he was really good on special teams. And they're ready to take that step up. That's what he's there for, man.
I wrote last year because we were looking for content in February, obviously with the collapse. I put out a positive article. 5 players that actually played well during the collapse last year. Kelee Ringo was number 1.
Yeah, I love him as a prospect, and that's the evaluation standpoint. But Howie said to everybody out in Indianapolis who was listening, we got to play young players because we got to pay so many of our stars. So there are places where we have to play young players, and they were able to do that successfully last year. So I don't think they're going to go away from that mindset. Like if you have to, we keep talking about, if you're going to pay Jordan Davis $13 million, if you're going to go out and get Myles Garrett, if you're going to do all these things,
you got to pay Zach Bond.
You got to pay Zach Bond, and you need a Kelee Ringo to step up and play as a young player, and maybe you sign Isaiah Rodgers as the safety net.
See, this is where I'm curious if Mekhi Becton comes back or not, because I would personally bring him back, but you have a contingency plan. You don't need to bring him back.
No, you don't need to. You don't need to.
It's not like Zach Bond.
Zach's going to be interesting because they want him back, but, does he want to bet on himself? And if he does want to bet on himself and he's hell-bent on getting to March 12th, he probably will make more than the Eagles want.
The problem with the Eagles is you got Dean with his injury, with his patella tendon. Burks is a free agent, and do you trust Trotter? And he might be part of the young players. We got to play the young players.
Yeah, well, I know they trust Vic, so.
And Vic likes Trotter.
If Vic likes the player, they're going to trust Vic Fangio. And he's earned that trust, by the way, I would say.
I'm going to say this, too, about Trotter. He was way better than I thought, than I initially thought he was going to be.
Well, he wasn't Zach Bond good.
No, but he held his own.
I will rip Howie on the show. I've said it. If they do not get Zach Bond back, he has made it clear that this is the number one priority. Get it done. No,
pay him. Pay the man. He is that guy you pay no matter what. And they
Josh, I would want Milton Williams back, but I get it if they can't bring him back. Josh Sweat, even everybody else, I can give him a pass. Not Zach Bond.
I know it was over 2 decades ago. This franchise just does not pay linebackers, and I'll still remember as a kid being absolutely furious when they did not pay Jeremiah Trotter.
It's interesting because the 2 positions I mentioned this last week, might have mentioned it with you, Jim, is the 2 positions they historically devalue: running back and linebacker. Their best offensive player, their most impactful offensive player was a running back. Their best defensive player, their most impactful defensive player was a linebacker.
Funny how that works. Oh, and they were all pros last year.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, if you get a good player, just pay the good player, no matter where, and figure everything else out.
Like, would we ever talk about letting Jalen Carter leave no matter what? No, we wouldn't. He would never leave. I mean, if you have a great player and he was a big part of a team that won you the Super Bowl and he's still in prime age, I think it's a no-brainer on Zach Bond. But I get the business side of it. It's going to be more complex.
I get the business side of it too, but I agree with you, Zander. To me, it's a no-brainer. I think everybody here on this show, in the chat room, I think everybody wants to see Zach Bond back in an Eagles uniform.
But do they want to see him back? Do they want to see him back? Here's where I waver a little bit. Roquan, I believe, is number 1.
And Roquan's a stud.
He is. And I think he's at $20 million. And Fred Warner's just under $20 million. If he's going over those 2 guys, I don't know. See, Xander's check. So you can't say at all costs.
See, I'm a jerk.
Yeah, I guess that's fair, John.
I would pay him. Because I think you're paying one of those free agents that money, whether it's Milton, whether it's Josh, whether it's Zach. And I think you need to pay Zach.
I don't think he's going to get Roquan Fred money.
I don't think he is either.
See, if I'm a GM of another team, I'd say, look, I do want you, but you've only been good 1 year under this guy. We're not paying you that money.
Right. I think other teams
Vic's not coming with them, but there's a lot of dumb teams out there.
I know there is. Like here's the thing. Like we compare him to Roquan and Fred, and those are great players. And to be honest, I love Zach Bond. I don't really think he's on their level. I think Roquan Smith or Fred Warner could sign to any team in the league, and you'd be getting an all-pro linebacker.
Absolutely.
Can we stay the same about Zach Bond? I don't think we can yet, especially with only 1 year.
Roquan has done it under Vic, Mike McDonald, and now Zach Orr.
Exactly. You know what that player is going to be. A bad organization can look at that guy and say, I know we're getting an all-pro linebacker. I don't think they can say the same yet on Zach Bond. Now, maybe they project they will, but I don't think they can.
Yeah, and see, that's the thing, right? And look, as much as we love Trotter in Philadelphia, senior, he could only play under Jim Johnson. He could. Like, he sucked in Washington. He just wasn't the player that they paid for.
Yeah.
And I think.
Well, I don't, with all due respect to Jeremiah Trotter Sr., because he was the last all-pro linebacker the Eagles had before Zach Bond. The game is different, So part of it is that. But from a well-rounded standpoint, like Zach Bond is so much better. Now.
Yeah, but like you said, the game's a lot different.
Yeah, it's a completely different game. But, you needed big bodies. You needed physical players. Now you need guys who can play in space. And Zach Bond was just off the charts.
I mean, if you need to convince yourself why Zach Bond needs to be in Philadelphia, just watch Super Bowl 59. Just watch his pick off Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I mean, and he did that. You can watch week 1 against Green Bay in Brazil. Yeah. He did it every week.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, it's funny. When I was talking to Bill Cowher a couple weeks before the Super Bowl, he was like, Jalen Carter was Defensive Player of the Year. And I said, Zach Bond's a finalist. He said, well, why don't we give them both Defensive Player of the Year? And then he's.
Were you at the Baltimore preseason game, Jeff?
I was, yeah. Remember that was when I used the back way to get in.
Oh yeah. We'll get in the Baltimore parking tangent. Awful situation down there. But boy, he was awful in that game. To the point, I don't know if you remember, but we're all sitting there going, this guy's playing like this guy's a starting linebacker.
Yeah,
football's such an interesting sport.
I believe you said it right to me. You're like, Jeff, this guy's starting? I'm like,
It was bad. It was bad. Which tells you what preseason football means.
Yeah, it means nothing.
Yeah,
preseason football.
But by the way, I know I'm going off on a tangent here. You guys saw the story about the Packers, about them basically getting rid of full season ticket holders who were like selling like the majority of their tickets.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
And apparently, one of the local articles they're even counting preseason games. I'm like, that's a joke. Yeah, absolute joke.
That's bad.
The fact you are charging an individual $80 to watch that slop is an absolute crime against humanity. It really is.
I'm with you 100%. I wish they would just ban preseason football.
Bro, I think they should just make it free. I mean, just make it free. Let people walk in. I mean,
for $10 even, like treat it like a training.
$10, right? Something like that for the Autism Foundation. I think that would be cool. But I think
the Eagles would do that. I really do, even though it's lost revenue.
There's not much I can say with conviction 100%, but yeah, the NFL ain't giving away anything.
No. Yeah, this is going to be the NFL's counterpoint to getting rid of the preseason. 18 regular season games, 20 regular season games. Yeah, there goes your preseason.
Yeah, they're not giving away anything free. The Eagles won't even give away their one. When the Eagles moved from training camp back to NovaCare, if you remember, they used to have 2 open practices.
They used to have 2 of them.
Yeah. Now they've scaled that back down to 1. They still charge. Whatever it is, it's $10. It's for charity, but still, I mean, you used to be able to go watch practice for free in the old days. I used to cover the Cheese League in Wisconsin. You could watch 4 teams whenever you wanted.
People don't understand this, and there is a generation like people my age that do. You became an Eagles fan because training camp was in Lehigh, and you could watch every single practice and get the actual access. Not, it's on TV. I get to go to flight night, or I get to go to the 1 open practice a year. No, it was you got to go every day and watch 2-a-days for nothing. It was awesome.
Yeah. It was.
It's a
Was
different league now, though, man. Everybody's
Yeah,
making more money.
as someone who played football, I loved watching those guys. I loved watching. I remember
you go back to Westchester, man.
Yep.
You could see Mike Quick at the Rats in Westchester. It was a far different time.
I used to see a couple of the guys I idolized growing up at Crossroads Pizza in Lehigh. It was awesome.
Yeah. They were almost normal people. I'm joking.
I mean, they are pretty.
You're joking, but you're
no, they are normal.
The stardom now, the
people
money,
don't
everything
get
about it is it's so much bigger now.
Don't get nearly as close as they could back in those days, which is kind of sad. But
it sucks, because the fans only see them through the social media lens, and the players only see the fans through the social media lens. Now, you don't get that interaction anymore.
That's a good point.
You could show up at Duffers every night and wait for Nick Sirianni to show up, but I wouldn't.
Duffers? What's Duffers? The place in Wildwood?
No, Haddon Township.
No.
My favorite was when the story broke about where Saquon Barkley bought his house, and I'm just saying that's not his house.
Well, I shouldn't even have said that. Yeah, I tend not to say where players live.
Yeah, I don't blame you for that, especially when you hear about what's his name, Dan Campbell, getting booted out of his home because they lost an NFC title game last year. That was terrible. But no, we anyway. All right, Jeff. What real quick, last one for you from me. The combines have concluded. We talked about a couple of players.
Did you watch the combine?
I watched on Thursday and Friday. I had too much going on. Yeah, it was our second weekend off. So I have so much stuff going on the weekends to try and catch up from the season. So I didn't catch them yesterday. I just watched the highlights on NFL's YouTube.
I went and saw my dad this weekend. He had a stressful, eventful weekend. I'll leave it at that. But he needed needed time for his son. And what we like to do for about 4 hours every combine, it's probably the only time we ever watch a combine, is we hate watch it. And it's more of, what a bunch of idiots. This is so stupid. How can Rich Eisen talk about this? How can Daniel Jeremiah talk about this? How can you judge a player through these drills? It's completely stupid.
Don't hate the player, hate the game, Jeff, because the
game is stupid. Yeah. You know what? The scouting combine is why I tell people the NFL can be a joke. Everything has to be an event.
Yeah, but
we can get rid of
it. It is not important, but if people like it.
The important part of the combine to me is Tuesday and Wednesday when everybody talks.
Yeah, well, talking. Yeah, I said the interviews are the biggest. The biggest part is medicals. That's the biggest part by far.
Yeah, and you don't even see anything about that.
Yeah,
I was laughing when the whole stories were coming out with Abdul.
yeah.
I think everybody in the inner circle knew that one.
Yeah, the stress reaction. Abdul Carter. We'll see how that shakes out in the conversation for being number one overall. I still think somebody's going to take Cam Ward number one, but we'll see. This is a terrible quarterback draft, by the way, Jeff.
John, did you ever get into a fight with anybody at Starbucks? Do you go to a Starbucks?
I'm not. I'm more of a man of the people Dunkin' Donuts guy.
Yeah, baby. Starbucks.
I'm not a big Starbucks fan.
I'm not either.
The coffee. But no, first of all, I hate media feuds. I think they're stupid.
Yeah, they really are stupid.
I really, so you're never going to see me in a media feud. What is the point?
I like too many people to get into a media.
Oh yeah, you're a people person. Now I can get fights with people, but it's not because of media. But you're talking about Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport. It's all right, settle down, guys. Who gives a shit?
It's like, guys, calm down. You're probably both right.
It's funny that it did happen at Starbucks because and then a bunch of people figured out that Jordan is Howard Schultz's kid.
When did I thought everybody knew that.
I thought everybody knew it too.
Also,
Jordan has like a foot on Ian.
Does he? I've never met Jordan.
Nice guy.
Talked to him online and stuff like that, but
yeah,
never
they're
met
both
him.
nice guys. That's what kind of makes it funny. It's like when you kind of like have interacted with both of them, you're like, oh, like this is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's Mike Sealski, my buddy Mike Sealski, tabbed it, and I give him credit. It's not reporting anyway. He calls it information brokers. Like they're
He's
being
right.
handed the information. Like it's not old school Bob Woodward.
Yeah, they're prodding and unlocking information. Yeah.
Getting multiple sources to confirm things. Although Bob Woodward took some hits from Bill Murray over the weekend. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, it's not. They're being handed the information by agents.
Yeah, that's what it is now.
Yeah, settle down. Anyway.
And football is the one sport where it feels like you get it, like just covering baseball. You're getting the information from the player or the manager or the GM itself.
Yeah. And sometimes we get information as how he spoke before the Super Bowl to us. He spoke out in Indianapolis. That's when you get clarification generally on certain things.
I've got an answer in baseball. You and I both know the answer to that. And I'm like, all right, that's what I need.
Yeah, but media feuds are silly, and I'm with you 100% on that. So ended up, that was, what was that about? Stafford meeting with
I think it was who Stafford met with. Or like the Brady thing.
Yeah.
By the way, smart organizations do smart things. The Rams are a smart organization.
Yeah, they're a good organization. I was kind of ripping the Rams because I'm not the biggest Sean McVay guy, as Zander knows. I don't think he's a bad coach. I just think people.
Les Snead is one of my favorite GMs on the planet.
Yeah, I think
them picks.
I think Les is really good, but it was really the Eagles' offensive line who said, the Rams are real deal. Like they were, and this is the Eagles' offensive line. It's Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson.
The Eagles thought the Rams. Slay said it. He thought the Rams were their hurdle to go into the Super Bowl.
But them guys talking about their pass rush, I was like, oh, all right, they were like their pass rush is legit.
Yeah, when I was talking to guys on the offensive line, I'm saying, hey, you think you guys have a bigger, better, and smaller, and they're like, don't overlook that.
But they took advantage of their smaller, and they ran. What did Saquon have? 60, 50-yard runs against that team. That's no coincidence.
Yeah,
they can really get after the pass.
Here's your fun Rams stat of the day. Saquon Barkley had more 60-yard touchdown runs against the Rams than, if you just count his stats against the Rams, the 60-yard touchdown runs, regular and postseason. That still would have led the league. That's great.
They got to find a better middle ground. But for the most part, like the Eagles won the Super Bowl in an unconventional fashion. Let's be honest. Most teams are looking to go where the Rams are going with the big athletic pass rush versus stopping the run. And you got to find a better middle ground. They got to find a better middle
This
ground.
is what I'm curious about the Rams. I know they told Cooper Kupp they're going to trade him, but do you think Stafford convinces them, you know what, we got to keep this guy?
Maybe, it depends with a player like that. I mean, he's not been the same since his, we always talk about running backs and traffic and touches, and that'll be a big story next year because of how much Saquon touched it this year, because history is what history is. And when you touch as much as he does, usually you're not the same coming back. So that's going to be a big story. But with Cooper Kupp, he's not been the same guy since his Triple Crown year.
He had one of the best individual seasons ever.
Yeah. But
still the only receiver to get 2,000 yards in a season if you count the playoffs.
But he hasn't been the same since.
Yep.
How many times he touched the football that year? He caught 145 passes for 19.
He had 179 targets. No, sorry. Yeah, 179 catches if you count the playoffs.
So That's his year. 145. What a year. 145 for 1947, 16 touchdowns, won the Triple Crown, the so-called Triple Crown.
10 years from now, we're going to look at Saquon's year and be like, how the heck did he do that?
Well, we already are. It's the biggest rushing season in NFL history. But so 2022, the year he comes back, the next year, he only played 9 games.
Got hurt early, but he had a strong start.
Yeah, 75 catches. 2023 only played 12 games, 59 catches. 2024, last season, he only played 12 games again, 67. Not even close. Since that season.
It was funny because a couple people won the beat. I think you're one of them, John, that lasted this. But I always said, man, if Saquon gets hurt, they are so you know what. And you're a Kenny Gainwell guy.
Not. They played well. Kansas City stopped them. Let's be honest. And the Eagles.
But they sold their soul to stop them.
All season, we were talking about, can the Eagles, do it? And to their credit, they turned the switch on. Like, there were some ugly games in there, 65 yards passing. And we were all asking, they're all relevant questions. Sorry, Eagles fans. Even A.J. Brown was bringing it up. Jordan Mailata was bringing it up. Jalen Hurts was bringing it up.
Devontae Smith brought it up.
Devontae Smith brought it up. They were all relevant questions. They were questioning whether they can do it. To their credit, they did it. They did it against Washington, and they did it against the Chiefs.
My top 10 Jalen-isms, so that's what y'all wanted to see, huh? That would be number 2.
And that, his passive-aggressive spike in the football, yes, but they deserved that. They deserved to spike the football. The only point is I'm trying to make they would have had to win a different way if Saquon got hurt. But could they have won that different way? Maybe. They were the best team.
I think they proved they could.
Yeah. They would have to. They're not getting 150 rushing yards a week. They would have had to won a different way, but maybe they could have won. We'll never know.
I thought Washington was even though Saquon had a great game against them, Jalen showed, hey man, I'm still here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
It was one of those. It's one of those things like a lot of people like to bust on Jalen, and I'm not saying Eagles fans or Eagles media or anything like that, but you guys see the Commanders fans, Jaden Daniels that much better. I'm like, he might be at some point, but
hey, you can also be honest. Jaden Daniels had a better fucking year than.
Well, he did. But let's not act like Jaden Daniels had this great NFC Championship game. He also is a rookie.
Yeah, but Jalen's now building his career. Because, like, if you never return to the Super Bowl and you go in 22, people can look at that season. Oh, it was a one-hit wonder. Oh, can Jalen ever get back? Now you went in 22, you returned in 24 and 1. Now that changes the context of going in 22. I'm not saying that you're wrong about Jaden Daniels. I think he had a great year, but Jalen is building a really powerful career.
Look, if I had to pick quarterbacks that are going to win the Super Bowl, Jaden Daniels is on that list. Josh Allen's on that list. Lamar's on that list. Burrow's on that list. That's how I judge quarterback. Like, do I think you can win a Super Bowl? I think Jaden Daniels can win a Super Bowl, and I think it can be in Washington.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so hard for people that to be. Everything is not mutually exclusive. Jalen Hurts had a phenomenal. Just talk about Nick Foles. He had a phenomenal NFC Championship game, had a phenomenal Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, deservingly won a Super Bowl. That does not mean he had a better year than insert name, Jaden Daniels, a couple of other quarterbacks who had big years. Both of those things can be true.
Yeah.
And they are true.
This is how I judge the whole thing. Just remember, at the end of the day, the way Jalen Hurts keeps winning, and the way he plays in a lot of his playoff games, you're going to see him in Canton. You are.
He's on a trajectory. Certainly.
Absolutely.
Still,
like if he gets another Super Bowl and keeps winning at this clip, he's winning at like a 700.
Well,
clip.
If he wins at this clip, he doesn't even need another. Super Bowl,
he doesn't.
To be honest, if you get another 5 years, say at this winning clip, which if you're getting another 5 years at this win, you're probably going to win one anyway. But
I always joke. Everybody goes, "Why is Troy Aikman like Jalen Hurts so much?" I said, "Because he's this generation's Troy Aikman."
A little bit. Yeah.
It's a great comp, man.
I mean, Troy showed up in the playoffs all the time.
Yeah, and look, I always go back to that quote that Jalen said earlier in the year. Me and John talked about it a lot on the show. Until you get got, or whatever the quote was, right? Like you never know until you get. But when that moment came, the opposite actually happened, where they did have a good passing game in the moments that they needed it.
Yeah, they had a tremendous passing game. But again, that's why I go to same thing with Saquon and the Giants. Like I've said it from day one, I will say it to the day I'm gone. For the New York Giants, Saquon Barkley made no sense. For the Philadelphia Eagles, he made all the sense in the world.
Right.
Both of those things can be true. Both of those things not only can be true, are true.
I just think Hard Knocks made it worse because of how it went down, and that's why no team will ever do off-season Hard Knocks again.
Nobody wants it.
Hard Knocks got their fix in on that year, but man, they cost themselves in the long term.
It sucks because I would watch Hard Knocks all season, all the time. I loved it. I loved every single bit of that.
Yeah, it was a good. That was a good. I'm not a big fan. I think it's run its course of the normal Hard Knocks, which was so interesting early when they first did it
because you never got that access.
Right. Yeah. But now it's become, all right, you follow three guys. You follow the one guy who's a nobody, and he's a good story, and you follow the guy who gets cut. And it's so formulaic. But that when they took you into the off season, because that's a lot of uncharted territory, and the editing was awful, but that's what they do. They tease. And the famous quote of, if we pay Saquon Barkley, not that they offered him, and Joe Shane trying to talk his stupid owner like a child,
which is never a good idea.
Yeah.
By the way.
Well, you had to. You had to. Does anybody believe, even in Philadelphia, after watching the greatest rushing season of all time? That's what it was, by definition. Does anyone believe if the New York Giants brought Saquon Barkley back that the New York Giants would have been in the Super Bowl?
No.
With Saquon Barkley? Of course not.
Not with that quarterback.
They're not ready. Daniel Jeremiah was talking about this during the combine when he's talking about the running back position. I saw the clip because I'm not watching that garbage, but I saw the clip and Daniel Jeremiah was trying to, and I give him credit, trying to elevate the conversation around running backs. It's like, look, if you're a good team, go draft a running back and go draft Genty if you're ready to win. If you're not ready to win, you're just wasting 3 years of a guy's career.
I know you, me, Jody, Zander, we've had this conversation 2 years ago about Bijan. That was one of the reasons I had to do a for and against. I said for him, because the Eagles could use a Bijan Robinson, and he would work for them.
Yeah. And the Eagles like Bijan.
They do.
They wouldn't have taken him at number 9.
I think, though, they ultimately made the right selection.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, I think they did. But he was one of the outliers. He's a guy they would have considered jumping back up to get in the 20s. And that would have blown people's minds.
John, by the way, one of our boys is a free agent pass rusher.
Who's that?
Derek Barnett.
Oh, is he? Yeah. Derek's not coming back here.
So is Emmanuel Ogbah, who I wouldn't be surprised if. I thought he was one of the ones that actually got along with Vic in Miami.
Yeah, Derek. I think Derek has had his fill of Philadelphia.
I've had my fill of Philadelphia, and I love Philadelphia.
Me too. Me too, Jeff.
There's certain players that, get shit on to a degree that they don't want to come back, and I think Derek's in that category.
Him and Nelson might be the two.
Yes, Nelson's in that category as well.
Yeah, Nelson definitely. That video still plays in my head rent free of the dude with the outside the burning building.
You still see, that
is a funny video.
That's
man.
One thing I do like about this current group. They have such thick skin. They all do.
Wow, some of them don't.
Oh, some of them, but a lot of them do.
Yeah, some of them don't.
A lot of the main guys do.
Well, some have figured it out. Lane has certainly figured it out, but that's a process, man. You got to go through. Brandon Graham is the best example of this. I mean, Brandon, there's a lot of revisionist history there. People wanted to run Brandon out of town. Jason Kelsey. I remember talking to Jason Kelsey. He thought he was cut, man. What year was that? I'd have to look it up, but
it might have been, was it 13?
No, it was later than that.
15 maybe?
It might have been 15, yeah. He thought he was out.
But my favorite is, I never saw Brandon Graham laugh so hard when he saw me laugh. When he goes, Earl Thomas over me? Earl Thomas?
Hey, Earl Thomas is going to the freaking Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he is. But it is funny, like, how it would have worked out both ways.
Yeah. Jason Pierre-Paul, too. It was Earl Thomas and Jason Pierre-Paul, who was a very good player till he blew up his hand in fireworks.
I think the Jason Pierre-Paul debate ended with Brandon Graham sacked Tom Brady.
Well, Jason Pierre-Paul was big-time player. Big-time player. All three are. But Brandon, very rarely do people recover from what. And Brandon was getting cut. Not Jason thought he was getting cut. Brandon was getting cut for Travis Long. That was 100% happening. And Travis Long tore his ACL.
And then, what was that? During minicamp?
He tore it 2 years in a row, but the first year, it was the year that Chip was going to cut Brandon. And
John, refresh my memory. Travis Long was an Oregon guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a while, but here's another one too. When Graham had his big 2016 season.
No, I got to correct myself. I'm just looking him up. Washington State. So he was
Washington State.
Pac-12 guy.
Oh yeah, he was a Pac-12 guy.
Yeah, Pac-12.
But I still remember
Chip loved him though.
In 16, I defended Graham to the death because he had like 85 pressures. Everybody's like, that's not a stat. It's funny how things change. Now in 9 years, everybody loves pressures. But back then I was like the pressure guy because I played that position. And,
I was always the pressure guy because I've had that argument with Jody. How many times, Zander? 1,000,000 times.
I have football coaches that I'd be bummed I wouldn't get a sack. And they'd be like, you had like 5 pressures today. And that's when I first learned about pressures in high school. So.
Yeah, I mean, pressures are a lot of good things happen. And hey, it's one of those things. And the NFL hurts themselves because they pay guys on sacks. It doesn't make sense. It's like the football people don't value it that much. Not that they don't value it, but there's a lot of context to sacks. Chris Long talks about this all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe I got a sack because of a great interior push and I just ran into me, or did I, did I deserve that sack like he did in the NFC Championship game and didn't get the sack, but hits Case Keenum, pick 6, game over, stole the soul of the Vikings that day. That's Chris Long with a pressure. That's why
I love Myles Garrett, and I know the guy gets sacks like crazy, but you should see the pressures and QB hits he gets too.
Yeah, and that's it. That's a big deal, and that's coaches have been talking about it forever. But at the same time, then you get to who do they pay, and you get to the business end. You got to get sacks to get paid. Doesn't make sense.
This is where I think Howie would be salving or Myles Garrett. Those joint practices in 2023. Myles Garrett just wrecked it. He was a one-man wreck.
I've never seen it. They couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
They couldn't do anything offensively.
You watch that offensive play, I'm like, no, I'm too busy watching Myles Garrett. Sorry.
John, what you said about sacks reminds me of the Pro Bowl too. Like people are like, oh, who cares about the Pro Bowl? I'm like, dude, the 5th-year options were like, you made more money if you made certain amount of Pro
another
Bowls.
stupid NFL.
It's another stupid NFL rule, but that's why players care. So for all the people when it comes out, who cares? No, it does matter. These guys are making X amount of money.
There's incentives and contracts to make the Pro Bowl.
Now it's more meaningful because they don't play the game, and by not playing the game, you don't have as many guys bowing out, and you don't have as many alternates. So when you get named a Pro Bowler, it has a little bit more cachet now. So it's not as bad as it used to be. But like if you're especially a quarterback, none of the quarterbacks would ever go, and you get down to the 5th alternate.
Tyler Huntley's a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, Tyler Huntley, perfect example. Yeah, Tyler Huntley was a Pro Bowler because he was an alternate, 18th alternate or whatever.
Tyler Huntley is the best clickbait you can ever have if you're trying to get people to click on an article. So-and-so signs Pro Bowl quarterback. It's Tyler Huntley. And they're like, oh, it's clickbait. It's not wrong.
It's not wrong. All right, wait. While we went down this road, Jeff, I know we've been on way along. I want to let you go, but can we squash this? Because I saw this floating around the timeline over the weekend. Colin Cowherd, I guess, suggested the Eagles can trade A.J. Brown if they want to get Myles Garrett.
They ain't trading A.J. Brown.
I mean, wait. Can we just add some context to this?
Colin Cowherd.
I get it. I get where he's coming from in the sense
Colin Cowherd don't even know who's the 11 players on the Eagles offense.
I know. You're a running football team. You're going to have to give up good players, a 32 pick. I get it. This guy, we're damn near undefeated when A.J. Brown's on the field. He's 27
They're not damn near undefeated. They were undefeated.
They were undefeated.
Right, this year they were. He's 27 years old. He's got 3 straight all-pros, and we're talking about trading this guy. I mean, come on.
There's
Zander, I'll give you one more ridiculous than that. Patriots beat writers actually write an article thinking they could get A.J. Brown. I was laughing.
That's happening a lot because I guess he likes Mike Vrabel.
Jalen Hurts, when Jalen Hurts, there is some context to that. When Jalen Hurts finished with A.J. Brown, they're undefeated. They were undefeated. They lost, of course, in Washington when Jalen got knocked out 6 minutes into the game.
Oh, when the Eagles already were about to score 14.
Yeah, and they were ahead by 14. Well, actually, Kenny Pickett finished that drive, but they were ahead 14-0 with a touchdown throw to A.J. Brown, by the way, I believe.
Yeah, it was.
So, yeah, when A.J.'s on the field, they're pretty good.
That was one inside the locker room thing I really enjoyed when, after that game, they lost to Washington. The Eagles, there were multiple players on that team that really thought they were going to score 50 off the Commanders that day.
Now, and I'm not talking because of Colin Cowherd. I can see the Eagles trading A.J. Brown. I'm talking about 5%, 10%, less than 10%, for the reasons that some have brought up, that they're a running team anyway. Who cares? He is vocal at times when he probably shouldn't be vocal at times.
He's an interesting guy. I'll just say that.
I love the guy. As you know,
I don't even view it like that anymore. If someone wants to be vocal about how to make your football team better, why do we view that as such a bad thing? And
I don't know.
It's the diva tag. It's all somebody wants to be great. That's what great players want. They want to be great.
I've been trying to fight that fight for there's not a bigger A.J. Brown fan in this town than me.
You're a huge A.J. Brown guy.
Yes, you are. But you have good context. I think some of the stories you've given on A.J. Brown have
you know what? A.J. and me, it's like he's giving me great answers. He's giving me crappy answers. He gave me a crappy answer.
Well, if cameras are around, he's going to give you crappy answers.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
they're not, he's going to give you good answers.
Yeah.
But, however, and I'm with you 100%, Zander. I'm like, this guy works his ass off. He's but at the same time, you see the controversy it creates. So I think the Eagles may look at it a little bit differently. At times, it creates a time. People run with this bullshit. The gossip of him and Jalen Hurts' relationship, all the other bullshit that people have run with.
Didn't they prove this year they can overcome that? Didn't they prove this year that gossip is only outside the room and it didn't permeate and throw off a season? I mean, it's clear that it happened. A.J. Brown on the podcast said after the season, yeah, we had moments where we had to talk things out, but they won a Super Bowl, so it didn't derail the season. So having that narrative, John, which I don't disagree with, or I don't dismiss.
I'm talking from the team perspective, not that they believe it, that they just don't want to deal with it.
I think it's. I don't know.
I'm not saying it. Obviously, it didn't cost them. I think it's ludicrous. I say it all the time that people think anywhere in life, because when you're talking about an NFL team, you're talking about 53 players. You're talking about 17 practice squad guys with the international, couple guys on injury reserve. So anytime you're talking about 75 to 80 people, that they all get along at all moments. I think at the base level of common sense, that is the stupidest narrative in the history of mankind. From Super Bowl winner down to the worst team in the NFL. Nobody's getting along every moment of every day. Think about your own life, just going to work. If you work in an office, are you always happy with everybody?
Yeah, right.
No. I've been on teams. I've been on basketball teams with 12 people. I ain't talked to all of them. It's the way it is.
It's absurd.
Dude,
that
if you don't
everybody
want a player
thinks
that wants to be better, though, then go sign a bunch of stiffs. I mean, that's the alternative.
I'm with you. I'm just saying.
I let AJ's game speak for itself, just like I used to let
if you
T.O.'s
want
game
if you want Myles Garrett again, you got to give up something significant to get Myles Garrett.
I tell you who I'd be asking for if I'm the Cleveland Browns.
Who?
Cooper DeJean. That's the
fuck
start.
no. I'm sorry. I get it. Everybody wants this player. I'm starting to get the shiny object syndrome, though. We just won a Super Bowl. Why are we going to take a player that was valuable to this football team and get rid of him to get a new shiny object?
Because you have to give up something to get something.
On the other side.
As a baseball writer, I tell people this all the time. They're not giving you your players for free. This isn't Madden.
I know, but then, but my point is, Jeff, I'm willing to pass on the player if the asking.
Well, yeah, well, that's how I
big.
am. But I also understand where the team's coming from because you do need to replenish the pass rush that got you a Super Bowl.
That's
I'm okay for people that say that's too much. I want to go.
Yeah, I'm more than okay with that.
But to the people who think you're getting them for Bryce Huff and his contract, I mean,
no, I know that's
no
not
way.
happening. I know
those are the unrealistic people.
Wait,
Jeff
John, you'll love
about.
this. I saw someone spin this and say, well, guys, if you look at Bryce Huff, he actually fits what Jim Schwartz wants to do in Cleveland. They might want him. And I'm like, guys, stop. They're not.
I hope people realize this is how highly the Eagles saw the Bryce Huff. They couldn't even play him in the Super Bowl.
I know.
Yeah, and it's the contract more than anything. There's some validity to it.
That's an immovable deal this year, by the way.
I agree. Jim Schwartz is a different scheme, aggressive, and in theory, Bryce Huff would fit that better.
Yeah,
I agree with that part of it. They're not taking that damn contract.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're getting rid of Myles Garrett to get rid of the contract too.
Yeah, but even if a player fits your system, you're not just going to trade the best player in the world potentially.
No,
for a guy.
But I'm talking about if you're trading Myles Garrett, part of it, as Jeff just said, part of it is to get younger and more cost effective. Mainly more cost effective, not take on a giant contract in return from a much lesser player.
See, if I was Cleveland, if I was Andrew Berry, I would be such a jerk to any team who wants him. Like, all right, here's the catch in all this, because I am a jerk. You have to take on Deshaun Watson's contract to get Watson.
There you go.
You have to do it. That is a non-starter with me. You have to do it.
Jeff, I wonder if Deshaun creative.
I wonder if Deshaun would consider the Eagles.
Yeah, all of a sudden, right. By the way, John, people still like to argue with us about the whole Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson thing.
I get it all the time. I made it up. Blah blah blah. I get it all the time.
They were stuck with Jalen.
If they only knew some of the backstories of what their favorite team do and what they think,
they don't want to admit the backstories.
By the way, did you hear Saquon finally admit that he was very close to signing? I don't know. It's probably
he finally admitted it. Yes,
he's very close to signing with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
The original plan. Can I say this?
I think you can. I think it's fair now. It's been a year.
The original plan was to re-sign DeAndre Swift.
I thought that, yeah.
And it was ironic. They were both fighting for the same player, Chicago, and same players.
Chicago overpaid DeAndre Swift, too.
Yeah. DeAndre wanted no part of being back here.
No, John, you and I knew that on locker cleanout day.
It's
That's
hilarious.
interesting. Was it team related or was it, because he grew up here? Obviously,
Offense related.
Offense related.
He thought they didn't get him involved in the passing game, which they didn't. He's
No,
a very
and he
good
was
pass
right.
receiver.
He had no. I did not disagree with anything he said when he was telling people this.
Yeah. No, he's a very good receiver. The Eagles didn't use that. We talked about it ad nauseum. It's true. They didn't use receivers.
I mean, the stories that I've heard and know with Saquon, like how he came to the Eagles, everybody's like, "Oh, this is in the works." I'm like, it wasn't though. It was more him and his camp were interested, but he wasn't sure they were.
Yeah.
Well, it all worked out. That's why, John, me and you talked about plan B, C, and D earlier in the show, man. Those are sometimes more important than plan A. Let's be real.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hey, you know what? That's how you win championships. I mean, really, it's, Jalen Hurts is a prime example of that.
Yeah. Wasn't the original plan either. But
and look, I was against the whole when they were interested in Deshaun. I'm like, why would you want Deshaun Watson? Why would you want that baggage?
At the time, everyone was assuming he was still a very young player. He was one of the best quarterbacks in football.
Dude, he was the Texans to the playoffs. He was a top 4, top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, everybody was interested in him.
Now, the whole thing about that is Deshaun and Jalen Hurts were friends. They grew to be friends. They used to work under the same quarterback coach, Quincy Avery. So they met each other. They became friends, very close friends. And the reason Deshaun didn't want to consider the Eagles is because he didn't want to take the opportunity away from his friend, who, like Deshaun, African-American quarterbacks don't get a lot of chances. Even back then, the thought was, I'm not going to take this opportunity away from my friend. Now, if nobody else wanted Deshaun Watson at the time, he would have considered the Eagles, but that wasn't the case. We
do take the whole African-American black quarterback thing for granted here because this franchise has the most starts with those quarterbacks, and they were giving them the opportunities way before this was even a thing.
So that's the reason why Deshaun would not consider the Eagles. That it wasn't about not wanting to play in Philadelphia. It wasn't about. However, even if he did consider, once it got to the point it got in Cleveland, because remember, it was a done deal. He was going to Atlanta. All of a sudden, Cleveland comes in with this ridiculous contract.
Fully guaranteed.
Yeah. And the Eagles, even if they were involved, they would have not given out that contract. Yeah, no. So it wouldn't have worked out.
That was very frowned upon around the league when that happened.
But the only part that bothers me is this bullshit that we're making up the Eagles are interested in Deshaun Watson.
They were.
Come on.
Russ didn't want to come here.
Turned out for the better, though. So
and Russell Wilson as well. Yeah, Russell.
Plan B, plan C.
Dodge the bullet there. B. Russell Wilson has pretty much not been good since he left Seattle.
No doubt. Jeff Kerr, thanks for joining in today, brother. We appreciate it. Long, extended segment here. We always appreciate the time that you give us on Birds 365. Great stuff today, brother. And we'll talk to you again next week as we get
happy vacation. No, he's going to Disney next week.
I'll be at this time. I'm trying to remember what park I'll be in. I might be on the Slinky Dog ride or Rise of the Resistance at this time.
All right.
So Jeff, we're a week. Next Monday is the 10th, so you won't be in then. Free agency starts the 12th. So the next time we talk to you, we'll have some free agency moves to talk about, Jeff. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we will. When are you going to spring training, too?
I'm going the 13th. Everybody goes, how can you miss free agency? I'm like, missing free agency. Got to take some time off sometime.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, brother. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for joining in today, and we'll talk to you again in a couple of weeks, all right?
Yep, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks, bud.
All right, there's Jeff Kerr joining us on Birds 365. Great stuff from Jeff Kerr joining in on the show. Boy, we went long. I looked up at the clock. I'm like, holy shit, 9:43. But Johnny Mac, pretty good segment, man, on all that stuff. I think the Jordan Davis conversation super interesting. I think the Myles Garrett stuff is good, but I don't know. I keep going back and forth on this, but I'm having a hard time with some of these young players. And I get where you're coming from. You're giving up you're getting one of the best players in the world, but boy, I just have a hard time being a Super Bowl team and giving up players for the new shiny object. Like, you don't have to anymore. You don't have to. I mean, you're not climbing. You're trying to sustain. And I don't know. I know you're kind of in the boat of you're willing to do it. I feel like, at least I think you are. I don't want to speak for you, but I think I'm souring on the idea the more these big names come up in the
Well, I think this is a rare player. Like I get you're coming off a Super Bowl, and I get, there's a lot of good vibes and there's a lot of good feelings, and with some of these younger players specifically. And history says, even when you have a good rookie season, there's going to be ups and downs in your career. Right. There's going to be good seasons. There's going to be down seasons. Not with this player. This player is one of the most consistent. Like I said, if he never takes another snap, he's already in Canton. This is one of the great defensive players of all time. He is different. He is different. People talk about Jalen Carter. Even a player like Jalen Carter, he ain't Myles Garrett. This player is different.
So are you saying that you'd consider the AJ Brown, or is that too much?
Well, I'm not. I don't think that would be a sort of multiple move Howie decision. I don't think Cleveland would be interested. It wouldn't be player for player. That would be, we're trading him to get an asset to get him, that type of thing. And no, I don't think that's the ultimate plan. And Howie was, pretty honest actually about they're not in a position to probably do that right now because of how many players they're paying at the current time, and how many high profile players they have. And that's when he talked about how you have to build rosters, and this being a maintenance off season. You use that term, maintenance off season. Now this would be the one guy that could throw that into upheaval, but it's very unlikely. I'm talking less than 20%. But if there's a way, I think all avenues are on the table to get this player. If there's a way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that makes me consider it, and look, I mean, my opinion is just an opinion, and to be honest, my opinion doesn't mean shit. If Diana Rossini's at the combine and saying, the Eagles want this player, that means Howie's in. And when Howie's in, you know how Howie gets, John. Howie goes into deal-making mode. If he wants the player that bad, that's why, I balk at some people who are like,
I don't get into that.
Anybody. Well, like if Howie's interested, Howie's going to talk about everybody. So you got to consider it.
Well, that's why I don't put much stock into any of those reports that Howie's interested in anybody, because he's interested in everybody. And he flat out say that he flat out said that.
Yeah, he told us that. Yeah.
And I'm trying to get the exact quote, because I want to give people the exact quote of what he said. And he basically said, we want everybody. And I can't, there's a lot, here we go. There's a lot of attractive items out there, and we spend a lot of time talking about every position and every good player, and we're selfish. We want everyone, but at the end of the day, it's just not the position we're in right now. That's what he said. That's his exact quote. So when you hear these people, and nothing against Diana or anybody else, he calls about everybody.
Right. I mean, in a way, they're using the Eagles to because they know they won't be wrong if they say it, and they
exactly.
They could get a little.
Nobody's wrong saying it. Nobody, because he will literally call about everybody. Even if he's not interested, he'll call to gauge the market, because every movement has an impact on him, and what is the market going to be at a particular position. So he's famous for it inside the league. Often he's just feeling out what other people are going to do to try to figure out what he's going to do and how that fits in.
Right.
But this is a player where he would move mountains if it's an option. And it's not even an option because Andrew Berry keeps saying, we're not trading him. You know.
That's criminal to let that player, though, fucking stay in that organization. I mean, they are in no man's land in Cleveland. They're in no man's land right now.
Yeah,
they have a decent roster, but what are you going to do? They don't have a quarterback, and they're stuck with Deshaun Watson. They're in literal no man's land. I mean, you're going to let Myles Garrett? Come on, man. I mean, I get it, but I think he's just trying to keep his trade value high. Let's move on, Johnny Mac. We talked a lot about Myles Garrett. I do want to ask you about another player on that defensive line, and I'm going to force you to go into prediction mode here. What do you think the Eagles are going to do with Jordan Davis? Honestly, what does John McMullen believe will unfold with Jordan Davis in the next couple of months? They have until May. What is it, May 2nd?
May 2nd. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I mean, every year, you know, it's the 2022 draft this year. There's a 50-year option on the first round picks, and you have until a certain date to exercise that option. I don't think they're going to exercise it. That would be my guess. That'd be also, you know, I wouldn't exercise it, but that doesn't mean Jordan Davis is not going to be here. He's going to be here this year. This is his 4th year. And it doesn't mean they can't work out something that entire year that he's here to continue on.
Right.
But if you're asking me about the specific 50-year option, which again is overrated, it's not that big of a deal. So a bunch of guys who get declined options and then re-sign with their same team.
Right.
Because the value is not commensurate of what's going on. It's not the end of Jordan Davis if they don't pick up that option. He's going to be here next year. He's going to be the nose tackle. How much he plays will be dependent on the Eagles defense as a whole, as I point out with Vic Fangio. If they are able to stop the run with 4-man fronts, he's not going to play a lot like he did last year. Right. If they start to struggle a little bit with it, he'll play more. He's an important part of the team, but I don't think he's worth major money because his pass rush has not progressed to the point where you're comfortable with it. And maybe it does. He started to show some signs. In the playoffs, he was better. But again, I find it very hard to believe the way the modern NFL is going that he's going to get much playing time no matter what. Even if he's better on first and second down, that he's going to get much playing time on third downs. Find it very hard to believe. Don't see an avenue for it.
I think the best case, I mean, if you're talking about a deal that does get done this offseason, I'd have to think it would be a Devontae Smith type deal where not going to be the same level of money, but $12 million was the option. Throw that in there, you know, put a couple of extra years on it, make it a 3-year extension, give him $30 million, and extend out those cap hits like how he does. I could see that happening. I just don't know if they value the player like that. I really don't. I'm not sure where they are on him.
And you know, I mean, the way the cap is going, $13 million isn't even that much.
That's what I mean. It's like peanuts in today's NFL. $13 million. Landon Dickerson's making $21 million. I mean, that's not that much money. It's a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, but
it's a lot. It's a lot for a part-time player. That's what he is right now. And I don't see that changing. And you know, now if they lose Josh Sweat, you lose a big money player. If you lose Milton Williams, you lose a big money player, and you have extra money to work with. You know, so all of these things kind of fit together. But you also understand Jalen Carter's contract is coming, and he's going to set the market. He's going to be, whenever that comes, I guarantee you, barring injury or something catastrophe, he's going to be the highest paid defensive tackle of all time. When it happens. No. For how long? I don't know. When the next guy's up after, but that's the way it works. When he's up, he's going to be the highest paid defensive tackle of all time.
I feel like the Carter timeline's a little longer than people are thinking. I mean, I know it's coming, and he's going to be the highest paid tackle when it comes, but you're 2 years out from giving him that deal, or maybe a year and a half.
No, a year. You're going to be trying to get him done as early as humanly possible.
Right, but then aren't you also going to have a couple of years until those major cap hits kick in? I mean, look at Jalen.
Yeah, I mean, history says how he's going to put a bunch of voidable years.
Right, exactly.
But from a standpoint of signing the contract, you're a year out because he's a guy they're not waiting around for. And they will be willing. They made Landon Dickerson the highest paid guard. They made Jalen Hurts the highest paid quarterback.
They're going to make him the highest paid tackle, no doubt.
They have no problem setting the market because they know where the market's going. And he'll eventually be surpassed by whomever is coming up.
What is that number, highest paid defensive tackle? Is it 30 million yet?
I don't think it's that high. I'll look it up, but it's going to be there. He might be the first guy.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see 30 million for Carter.
He might be that guy. Right now it's Chris Jones. Yeah, he's over 30. 31.
I was going to say, I thought
31.75, and he's the only one. Then comes Christian Wilkins, 27.5.
Yeah. Carter's getting 35 million.
Yeah, very well might. Matt Abuike, Alim McNeil, Derek Brown, Quentin Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, DeForest Buckner, Deron Payne, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Kenny Clark, I'm saying all these names for a reason. Javon Hargrave, Christian Barmore, all over 20 million. This is a position the NFL pays.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with Milton Williams. Forget about Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
This is a position people are willing to pay.
Yeah, I think Milton's going to get a little overpaid, and he's going to warrant the money. I think it's going to be an overpay because he's not going to have Carter next to him, not going to have Bond behind him. I mean, we'll see what happens with him. Let's get to a couple super chats, John. We got some. Looks like we got one more WWE super chat. Here's what I want to say before I read the super chat. All right, this is one of those storylines in the WWE that actually has me interested. Like maybe I should. Here's my biggest hurdle, though, John. Every time I try and consume some of the WWE, I'm just flustered. I'm like, this guy's got a long history in a storyline. This guy had a long. What did Cena do? What did Cody Rhodes do? All these different dudes, and I'm just throwing. I need somebody to make a YouTube video. Like, if you're watching, what's the thing coming up in April? The Rumble or WrestleMania?
WrestleMania.
Yeah, if you're gonna watch WrestleMania for the first
Super
time,
Bowl.
This is every storyline you need to know to be able to understand it. If someone makes that YouTube video, send it to me. I'll watch it. Suplex says Cody is Homelander. His turn will be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if he eventually turns, it'll be a big deal. It won't be John Cena big, but it'll be a big deal. Yeah, I'm not a big Cody fan. I don't know what to tell people. I'm very. People love the guy. I don't get it, but I always say like what you like.
He wears the American stuff, doesn't he? That's why people like him.
I don't know why. It generally, when you know guys have tremendous charisma or they might be a good worker, as it's called in wrestling, he's a pretty good talker, so that's part of it. But yeah, he's not typically who I would have picked. Like they always tell the story. The minute Pat Patterson, who was an old wrestler, passed away, used to be Vince McMahon's right-hand man, used to be the booker, used to be the guy in charge of, the storylines and all that stuff. The minute he saw Dwayne Johnson, he said, this guy's a star. There's certain guys you look at and you go, this guy's a star. I don't see that with Cody Rhodes, but other people evidently do. John Cena was the same way. Star. And you can look at it pretty quickly and say, all right, this has got everything they're looking for, this guy. And when it clicks, then you're the biggest star in Hollywood.
Right. No, you're right. 30D checks in. What's up, 30D? Debo still led the league in yak last year. Wow, did he?
Yeah, but he never runs routes, which is kind of what I'm telling. If all you run is manufactured touches, it stands to reason you're going to get yards after catch.
Yeah, they toss the ball to him behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And you get 8.
I mean, some of these you got to delve a little bit deeper into the reason some of these things happen. Overall, Debo had, I don't know, 600 something yards receiving. Would you rather have Jamar Chase as a receiver or Debo Samuel? I mean, again, he's a manufactured touch guy. And by the way, and it was the best in football in 2021 at that. It's not 2021. He had 670 receiving yards. Even as a runner, you know, if you think about his 2021 season, that's the apex. He had 77 catches for 1,405 yards, 18.2 yards per catch, which is phenomenal because he doesn't go downfield as a route runner that much. He also ran it 59 times for 365 yards, 6.2 yards per carry, had 8 touchdowns. Last year, he ran it 42 times for 136 yards, 3.2 yards per carry. Maybe he was banged up. I don't know. But the guy who was playing last year wasn't very good. And he's always been a manufactured touch guy.
Right.
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's just what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not huge on the move. I mean, I don't really think it's what you needed for Jaden Daniels, to be honest. I think the player probably has something left. It's good because it's 1 year commitment, so you don't have any long-term before you see if he's burned out. He's probably got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder based on the way he's been talked about, but I just don't think it's the right – like if I was a Commanders fan, I would have wanted you to get a real target for Jaden Daniels, but – I mean, he was throwing to Zach Ertz 11 times in the NFC title game. Get him a fucking good wide receiver too, but I don't know. They didn't want to do it. Brian Pumper says, kick Jeff Kerr. Cooper, GTFO.
Boy, everybody falls in love with these young players. Yeah, I mean, you got to give something up if you want the player. If you don't, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but then don't talk about getting a player like Myles Garrett.
I think the tough thing here, John, is like, it's clear that this player has reached the threshold for you where you're willing to make the move. But isn't it in a vacuum and more of a broad perspective? Isn't it what bad teams do? Give up young talent to get an aging player because you think he's going to put you over the top. I'm not saying this is with this player. I'm saying the general line of thinking. Wouldn't that technically?
Well, everything comes down to evaluation. I you know. Like there's a bunch of good players. Cooper DeJean's a good player. Nolan Smith's a good player. Quinyon Mitchell's a good player. Max Crosby's a good player. And if you want to go the more proven edge rusher route, you know, they're all good players. They ain't fucking Myles Garrett. There's different players.
Yeah,
there's
right.
different levels of players. This guy is, and I always tell my Adrian Peterson story. This guy's an Adrian Peterson. This guy, like, why? You know, if you take Adrian Peterson, for those who've heard the story, the Eagles, the Vikings had Chester Taylor, was coming off a great season, by the way, for a running back. Typically, because I went through it and I heard fans say that about that team. Why are you drafting a running back? And I'm going to look up the season Chester Taylor had to tell you just how good it was. 1,216 yards rushing, 42 receptions. Damn good running back. Damn good running back on a mediocre team. And you say, well, you need help here. You need help here. You need help here. You got a Pro Bowl running back. And you're drafting a running back with the 7th overall pick or whatever it was. And the guy said, yeah. Again, he wasn't insulting Chester Taylor. He was just like, fuck Chester Taylor.
Yeah, right.
He was saying it in a funny fashion. And he's like, you don't get it. Speaking to me, this guy's different. This guy's different in my estimation. And I'm not the only one.
No, I know you're not the only one.
Myles Garrett is different. You could talk all the good players. This is the guy on the one hand, best player in the world. He might not be the best player in the world, but he's in the conversation. I think if you're in the conversation, you're pretty stinking good.
I happen to think Garrett could be the best player in the world. I don't know who would be the top 3 in that conversation. Garrett, and who else?
Positional. You know, you can make an argument for Chase coming off and Triple Crown season. I think he won the Triple Crown. You can't make it in quarterback. Lamar would be the one.
Josh
default to.
I like Josh Allen better than Lamar. I don't know what it is. I like the style of play more from Josh. I think
I like Lamar more than Josh. Josh is too reckless for me. Lamar's a little bit more under control. Those are the three I would, off the top of my head, I would point to: Lamar Jackson, Myles Garrett, Jamar Chase, coming off last season. And then I know people are going to say, "Hey, Cooper DeJean stopped Jamar Chase," and I mean, you get all down because Eagles fans are Eagles fans. They're going to love the Eagles players, and I get it. But this guy's different, is all I'll say.
Yeah, that's fine. They're going to be fans. I mean, fans are going to be fans. That's fine. Johnny Vegas says, if I were the Browns, I'd want one of the Eagles' offensive linemen for Garrett. I mean, who? Who are
Lane's too old. Jordan's too expensive.
They're not giving up my lot. They're not giving up Dickerson. They're not. I don't think they're giving up any of those guys. Come on.
No, they might give up Cam, but
maybe
coming off back surgery.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's a fit. No.
I don't either. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff there. Appreciate everybody checking in today. Hit that like button for us. Johnny Mac, just your final thoughts, brother. We'll let you go, and then we'll be back here on a Tuesday edition of Birds 365, about 22 hours from now. Your final thoughts on today's Monday show.
Well, I guess I'll end it with Myles because of what I said. I do not think the Eagles are getting Myles Garrett. I do not think that. I haven't thought it. We'll see if that changes. Right now, Cleveland doesn't even want to trade him. We'll see if that's bluster or it becomes real, if he wants to force his way out. It's a very difficult trade to pull off if you're the Eagles because you don't have a lot of draft capital or a lot of draft capital that the Browns would want. Because you're so good that you're selecting down. So, a couple of years ago we had Bijan 365. Now it looks like it's going to be Myles 365. I want to make it very clear. I don't think the Eagles are getting him. But if you do want him and you do, you're going to have to give up something valuable to get him. You have to understand that you're not getting this player for things you don't want.
I do find that funny. Eagles fans, they go through their trash bag and they're like,
yeah,
we'll give
exactly.
This.
Exactly.
I'll give them this.
It's like, I don't want this, so they'll take this. It's not how it works, especially with players like that.
All right, Johnny Mac. John, great show, brother. We will catch you tomorrow on Birds 365. Appreciate you doing it this morning.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, there's Johnny Mac joining us on Birds 365. A couple minutes of Zander time here. I got to run. I got a lot of stuff going on today in the house, but I did want to kick it around with you guys a little bit and just get some of your reactions to the combines. The combines went on this weekend. A couple players stood out to me. I wasn't able to watch it live Saturday and Sunday. I had a lot of stuff going on, but I am looking for some takes from the people. What did you see in the combine? Any players jumping out at you at 32 that you want? Couple guys I like, a couple tight ends I like. I just don't know how the board's going to fall, who you're going to be able to get. I like that Mason Taylor from Michigan. I thought he had a good combine. That guy, who's that guy's name that had an insane combine? I saw Nick Emmanwori. I saw some of you guys in the chat talking about him, but he would be crazy. I just don't think he'd be an option for the Eagles. I don't know where is he mocked to go right now? Where is he mocked to go? Anybody know where Nick is mocked to go? Nick Emmanwori. Let me find where he's mocked to go. I saw some fat guys run fast. I didn't catch it all. I like the O lineman from Notre Dame. I'll check, or not Notre Dame, North Dakota State. I'll check him out. I will check him out. Where is Emmanwori mocked? Donovan Jackson. I like Donovan Jackson. Underwear Olympics. Yeah, I was calling him that too. Yeah, it is no limit, no doubt. I saw top 15. Yeah, I didn't really see him in many of mine early. Let me go check out. What's Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft? Where does he have him? In Bucky Brooks. I like the NFL.com ones just because I feel like they get intel. They get the intel. Whether other people like it or not, they get the intel. Daz, where's he going, bro? I know you know. I know you're a big draft guy. You follow the draft good. Let me look. Let me find these mocks. I can't believe how high Tyler Warren is ranked. I know he's a good player, but I mean, people have him like top. Daniel Jeremiah has him as the 5th ranked prospect in this class. Colston Loveland is his 7th ranked prospect. I guess none of those tight ends are going to fall then to us. Giad Campbell's way up there. Shadur Sanders. It's going to be interesting to see where Shadur Sanders goes. Like, where do you guys think he's going to get drafted? I don't know where Shadur Sanders is going to go because quarterbacks always get pushed up. I don't really see it with Shadur, but you know how that goes. I mean, you know how that goes. Here's Jeremiah's 2.0. Let me see where Nick Emmanwari went. Did he even go in the first round? He's not in the top 20. No, he didn't. Well, wait. Nope, he didn't even go in Daniel Jeremiah's mock drafts 2.0. I think I agree, Flex. He's going to move up now, but it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I don't. By the way, I don't think the Eagles are looking to draft a safety as versatile as that player is. I don't see it. I mean, they spent their top 2 picks last year on secondary guys. I don't think they're going to do that again. But we'll see. Daz, that's where I'm on, bro. I'm on NFL.com. Did I miss him? I don't think I did. I told you guys I really like Walter Nolan. I love Walter Nolan. If you're talking about Milton Williams leaving, I think Walter Nolan would be a great pick there, but we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening with the draft. It's going to be an interesting draft. I mean, from the Eagles' perspective, it's a different offseason for us because you're no longer climbing the mountain. Well, you are, but you're at the top of the mountain. So sustaining and maintaining and improving on that is a lot different than looking and saying, I have to be better than this team. I have to get better than that team. How do I improve over the Chiefs? How do I improve over the rest of the NFC? You're at the mountaintop. So how do you sustain that? How do you return to that mountain? It's a different perspective for the draft, for the offseason. So going to be interesting to see what the Eagles end up doing. But I'm looking forward to the mock drafts that come out after the combine. Doesn't look like Jeremiah or Bucky Brooks did any yet, so I'll be looking for them. I'm sure they'll release them this week. They do a bunch of mock drafts. It's very early, man. It's hard to do mock drafts before free agency. So we're 9 days out from free agency. I can't wait for free agency. I love free agency. If free agency is the best time of the offseason, at least I think it is. I mean, the draft is fun, but the draft's a lot more fun when you have 2 first-round picks and you're in the top 10 like we've been in previous years. When you're at 32 and 64, you're like, oh, we're getting the bottom of the barrel on both rounds, so it's not as easy to pick. Brian Pumper, what's up, Pump? The Hall of Fame of bad takes. And you're telling me, Pumper, you're telling me about my takes? Pump, you are in the literal JAKIB Hall of Fame for the worst football takes of the season. If I made a Hall of Fame, if I put a big whiteboard on my wall, all right, JAKIB chat, the best takes of the year, the worst takes of the year. Let's get our top 10 on both sides. Coming in at number 1 on the worst takes of the year is Brian Pumper. A Hall of Fame bad take artist this year. Maybe you'll have a better year too. Maybe. I'm not sure, Brian. I'm cooking you. You ain't cooking shit. You ain't even cooking a stir fry. You're cooking ramen noodles, Brian. You're cooking cup of noodles. You boil a little water and you pour it in your styrofoam cup of noodles. That's what you're cooking. Cooking me. You're going to need a lot more to cook me. He says, I wanted Shamar Stewart, but this bum decided to have the best combine ever. Now that I agree. Shamar's going to be good. I like Shamar Stewart, but you're right. He did. That bum did decide to have the best combine ever. So he will not be falling to the Philadelphia Eagles. All right. He will not be falling to the Philadelphia Eagles. Who's number 2? Who's number 2 in the Hall of Fame at bat? Is it James Jones? It might be James Jones. Now his team had a good year. We can't put James Jones in the Hall of Fame of bad takes. We can't. We can't. Who else is in the Hall of Fame of bad takes? Let me find a couple of names that we can call out. Nad, you're on the list. No Limit's good. Twiz is good. Flexen's all right. Eagle Ness was okay. Mancini was all right. Although Mancini, I will say to you, Mancini, you kept commenting through the year, Eagles will get bounced in this round of the playoffs. It'll be similar to how it went last year. They will not make it to the Super Bowl. Mancini, I am the all-seeing JAKIB. You can't fool me, Mancini. You can't fool me, Mancini. All right? None of you guys are fooling me. El Yepa, you've had a good year. All right? Philly Don, you've had a good year. By the way, let me thank Philly Don. Philly Don, I got your thing. Look, it's right here. Let me turn off my blur in the background so you can see that King James's thing that he drew up for me is officially in the backdrop. All right, check it out. It sits right here in front of my stack of books. All right, this is King James. You guys remember Philly Don's grandson who got the JAKIB merch. So he wrote me a little JAKIB guy, and I love him. I put him in the back. All right, from James. I love the letter. All right, so Philly Don, you thank King James for me, brother. I got it right in my backdrop. It sits right in my studio, and it will be there for the foreseeable future. So thank you, King James. Thank you, Philly Don, for sending that out. I appreciate it. Come on, Wilfredo. King James is like 8 years old, and he loves JAKIB. He's our next JAKIB superstar in the chat. Wilfredo hating. Wilfredo, I'll put you in the Hall of Fame of bad. Freaking Wilfredo. Going in the Hall of Fame of bad. Quit. Wilfredo, you know, I had you in the Hall of Fame of good. You switched quick, my friend. You switched quick. Holy moly. King James needs to draw Cilio. He needs a bigger paper, Fleming. He needs to go full paper to draw Cilio. All right? Full paper to draw Cilio. I love it. Philly Don, thank you, man. I appreciate you sending that a lot. All right? I appreciate that a lot, man. And tell young King James I love it, and I'm super appreciative of that, all right? Of the thought and you sending it out and the whole 9 yards that it took to get it to me. So I appreciate that very much. Check it out one more time for everybody. Look at that. He's got the JAKIB Sports shirt on. He even drew me some JAKIB Sports sweatpants. All right. On the back, it looks like some JAKIB cups with the J on there. All right. What do we got on here? Ideas for merch. All right. And he says, thank you for the merch. And he gives me some other ideas. All right. So check it out. I mean, that's epic. Wilfredo, the Hall of Fame of shit takes. All right. You reside next to Pumper, Wilfredo. All right. Yeah. Philly Don says, I have to get him a poster board for him to draw Cilio. I love it. Kid needs a 3 foot wide, a 3 foot wide piece of paper. Yeah, I agree. Come on, Wilfredo. All right, I appreciate it, everybody. Great show today on Bird 365. We had Kerr on for a while. I didn't realize how long we had him on, but I thought pretty good stuff all around. You know, this offseason's interesting, man. It really is. There's a lot of stuff. When you get to the mountaintop, sometimes it's harder to get there, or harder to stay there than it is to get there. It's harder to stay there than it is to get there. So as good as Howie's been getting up to this point, I would say to you, Howie has to be the best he's ever been. You want to go back, you want to return, you want to get to the mountaintop again and be the champion again, you're going to have to be better than you've been to get to this point. All right? You're going to have to be better than you've been to get to this point. So we'll see what they end up doing this offseason. Should be good. Curtis, what's going on, brother? My boy Curtis. Zander, at one point I called Jalen a 15-20 guy. Did not think he would see 22 Hurts again. That was a pretty shit take. That's all right, Curtis. Most people had that take. Now, you know, I've always loved Jalen, but I would be lying if I said I didn't have doubts at one point. I mean, I question, can you win in the NFL without the passing game? Can you do it this way? Why does every team in the NFL for the last 20 years have gone more and more away from the run? Yeah, I question it. Look, Curtis, most honest fans who have a little bit of Philadelphia in them will admit to that. You know, there's a section of the fan base who thinks that every move is perfect, every player is great, and their fandom is more around always positive, which is fine. You can have that. I don't have that mindset. That'll never be me. But, you know, some people are fans like that, and that's cool. That's cool. You know, that's cool. Look at KCA. KCA, I know why you're here. KCA is only here for the giveaways. I do have some more giveaways coming. All right. Won't be today, but I do have some more giveaways coming. I'll give away a jersey today. No Limit and Josh B. I'm still working on you. No Limit, I have your jersey, so I'll send that out as soon as I can. Josh B., I'm still trying to get you a better size because I know that that's not working right now for you, but I'll work on that. All right. And then I have a Cooper DeJean jersey to give away. All right. So, and then I'll give away some JAKIB merch. I'm working on some new JAKIB merch. All right. I'm working on some new JAKIB merch. Bald Eagle checks in. What's up, Bald Eagle? You think the price to trade for Garrett would be similar to what you would trade for Crosby? If so, is it better to add that extra third for Crosby? I think it would be cheaper to go for Crosby. I think it would be cheaper to go for Crosby. I mean, you could make an argument if Crosby's cheaper, it would be a better move. You know, because he's a little bit younger. How old's Crosby? 28? He's 27. He turns 28 in the offseason in late August. So he's going to turn 28 right before the season. You could argue that'd be better, but I don't know if they're trading him. I hear you, though, Bald Eagle. I mean, if you're talking about trading this much stuff, is Garrett the best move? I don't know. I don't know if he is. I mean, he's definitely the best player. He's the most impactful player, but you add in the age, the price, what you're going to have to send to get him. You know, one can make an argument that that's not the best allocation of resources when you're trying to get back to the mountaintop. You could make that argument. All right. All right. We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out with that. All right. Let me take a couple more comments here and I'll get out of here. Let me get a couple more comments and I'll get the hell out of here. I appreciate everybody checking into that. Have you hit the like button? Have you hit the like button? Isn't Crosby just a bull rusher? I'd say he's a little bit more than that. All right. I'd say he's a little more than that. He's a good player. He's pretty good all around edge. I can't tell you I'm the expert on Max Crosby, though. I don't know exactly what, I mean, I'm not a glutton for punishment. I don't turn on Raiders games. All right. I don't turn on Raiders games like it's my job. Z, can you confirm Nunzio Campanile is your jersey guy? I cannot confirm or deny, Brian. I cannot confirm or deny. Put it this way, Fleming. I was not happy when Nunzio did not get the job. All right. I was not happy, but I do like Scott Loeffler. I do like the new quarterback coach. I think it's going to be good. I'm a fan. I read a little bit more about him on Friday after the show. I like it. I like the move with Scott. I do. No Limit. Zander, do you think the Eagles find a player they like enough to move up? I don't know. It's going to be hard, bro. Going to be hard to move up. Going to be hard to move up because, I mean, what do you want to do? How high do you want to go? You know, if you want to go to 20, I don't even think your third with 32 is enough to move up. So you're going to talk about move that second round pick. Now you don't have a second rounder. Moving up, No Limit. Moving up is going to be hard. I think moving back is a lot more likely, especially when you hear the disparity in the draft room. Now, No Limit. If they love a player who falls, nothing's off the table. You know that, though. I mean, nothing's off the table. But just from looking at the draft board and hearing how, you know, the draft experts talk about the board, 20 to 40 or 50 is not that big of a deal, or not that big of a drop-off, I guess would be a better word. So I could see them taking 32 and moving back. I think the hard thing is going to be finding a team to move back with, because a lot of people, I think, are going to be trying to move back. A lot of teams are going to be trying to move back. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I'm looking forward to it, man. The draft is always a fun time. We'll have a ton of extra content on the draft. Actually, this week on Thursday, we have Ian Cummings. If you've been a longtime watcher of Birds 365, you remember Ian from last season. All right, Ian Cummings is awesome. He does draft work for Pro Football Network. I think he just re-upped his contract with them, so he's doing more draft work for them. I'm trying to see if he'll do some draft work for JAKIB, honestly. I'd like to launch a series leading into the draft. Let's see, how many days away are we from the draft? How many days till the NFL draft? 52 days. So we're 52 days. Imagine if I could put out a video today on 2 or 3 prospects. That would be great. So I'm trying to find something to do that. That would be pretty cool. The Big Z mock draft will come closer to the draft, JD3. I'll probably do a couple of them. John only does one. I'm not going to only do one. I would do a couple. Maybe I'll do my first one like this week or next week. All right. I got to dive more. I've been diving in now because with the combines and everything, but let me tell you a little secret. All right. Let me give you a little Zander secret. All right. When you work like I work, which is a lot, which is very long hours, which I'm happy with. I love working. All right. I do. I really do. I love working. All right. And the Eagles go to the Super Bowl. So your time of hardcore grind is a month and a half longer than it was previous. All these people are clamoring for my attention. Okay. There's a lot of people who are clamoring for my attention. Family members, friends, all sorts of things going on. So I'm balancing some of these things. All right. I'm balancing some of these things. We are, Wilfredo. We're going to do a JAKIB fantasy league. I don't play fantasy. All right. I played fantasy like once in my life. It was in high school. And I'm like, this is fucking stupid. And I didn't have the wherewithal to continue to check in every week and update. So most of my weeks, it was like nobody was playing. Everybody was. So I was like, all right, I'm done with fantasy. I don't play fantasy anymore. This year, Wilfredo, I will be playing fantasy. And I got news. I got news for anybody that wants to enter the JAKIB Fantasy League. You are going to lose to me. Flexen, you're done. Wilfredo, you're done. William, you're done. Chuck, you're done. Eagle Nest, you're done. I'm coming and I'm going to win. Oh, I'm going to bury it. Flex, you ain't burying shit. Flex, you ain't burying shit. All right? Get the fuck out of here. I'll use a flex on you, Flex. Get him out of here. I'll use a flex on flex. A little flexing on flexing crime right there. Get him out of here. Eagle Nest, you're out of here. I'm going to win. I'm going to win. What's up, Mac, man? Hope you're doing well, big dog. Hope you're doing well, brother. Z, I haven't been here in a minute, but I'm back now. Life happens. Shit gets busy, but I'm back, baby. Shout out to the chat, JAKIB Nation. Mac, man, love you, brother. Life happens, man. It's all good. I appreciate you checking back in. Hope everything's going good down in your end, Mac, man. Love you, brother. Appreciate you being back in here. Shady says, I'd like to join. You'll join. I'll tell you what, though. It's going to be a fight. How should we determine who's in the league? How many teams can you have? Like, what's the biggest league you can have? I want to make the biggest league we can. But there's only so many weeks. So is it 12 teams? Is that the most you can have? What's the most amount of teams you can have in a league? Somebody who plays fantasy every year would have to let me know. All right, 16 max. 16, 14, 12. I'm seeing a bunch of different. Is it 16? 14 to 16 teams. All right, so we'll do that. We'll do that. We'll do a little buy-in. All right, I don't know how much we want to do. Are you guys looking to play? Or are you guys looking to play? Are you looking to play? Are you looking to play? You let me know. All right? You let me know. Lucius, you're right. That's a good way to do it. JAKIB Legends will have first dibs. That's a good way to do it. JAKIB Legends will have first dibs. All right? I like it. $100 buy-in's not bad. I like that. $100 buy-in I can rock with. All right? Curtis says, Zander, my first year in fantasy, I had Randy Moss and Brady, the 22 touchdown year. I had T.O. also. People let Randy fall because of his bad years with the Raiders. That's good. Curtis, that sounds like it's going to be me this year. Something's going to happen that I'm going to end up with the best team and I'm going to win. I don't play to lose, Curtis. Do I look like a guy that plays to lose? I'm going to be winning this sucker. I'm going to be winning this sucker. Hundo buy-in is good. I like that. Not too much, not too small. $1,000 buy-in. I don't know how many people you're getting to play at that. All right. I don't know how many people you're getting to play at that. But all right, good stuff. Good stuff. I appreciate all you guys for being here. Yo, Wilfredo, You are solidifying yourself on the shit list of crappy takes in the JAKIB Hall of Fame. All right? Pumpers won, but man, you're close after today, Wilfredo. Big Z taking a big L, he says. Wilfredo, you're fucking toast, guy. You're toast. All right? Go and get out the toaster from under the cabinet, plug it in, put a piece of bread in there, and let it toast all day. All right? When you walk in there 8 hours later and the thing is burnt to a crisp, you can say, hey, that looks like me. That looks like me. What happened? Wilfredo, this looks like me, this piece of toast. Jesus Christ. All right, I appreciate everybody for checking in today. Great show today. Love all you guys. Hit the like button. We're lacking on likes. What's going on? Well, what's going on? Bird Gang Girl, have you hit the like? All right, have you hit the like? Jeff Bone, you're cooked. Bone, I love you. You know I love you, Bonehead. You're cooked. You are absolutely cooked. In fact, Bonehead, you might not want to play. You know, you might be better off taking your 100 and putting it on like a new pair of Jordans or something like that because you're cooked, Bonehead. You don't stand a chance. You might want to bow out while you still can. All right? All right, I love all you guys. Thank you all so much. Great stuff. Great show today. I enjoyed it. Combine's interesting. You know, not that much. I don't love them as much, but I'm going to go and recap a little bit more today and kind of look back on them. I'm interested in some offensive linemen. I will say that, but you know, I don't know how he's going to do. It's going to all depend on what he's going to do with if he trades, if he doesn't trade, move up, move down. You know, there's a lot of things that he can do here. So it's one of the things that makes the offseason so fun is that the options are unlimited. The options are unlimited. M. Reyes, I love you, M. Reyes. M. Reyes is, you guys know, M. Reyes will get no slander for the whole offseason. It'll be all peaches and cream in M. Reyes world, all right, on JAKIB. All right, he was the only one who had the balls to go on Cilio and give him a little bit of a smackdown. All you other nerds failed. You failed. Where's HKP? He failed. Mad Dio, you got on Cilio and you choked. You choked. I mean, M. Reyes is the only one with some chops. Is that what you're telling me? We got one guy in JAKIB land that's got some gonads? I mean, what's going on? We got one guy with some gonads. I mean, one guy with some nuggets in all of our viewers. You know, we get 150,000 unique viewers around a month. That's what we averaged, all right, through the last, year. 150,000 plus unique viewers, which means unique different accounts. And one of them has nuts. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, what's the percentage on that? We got one guy with some chops? I'm almost disappointed. I'm a little disappointed in the community. I'm a little disappointed in JAKIB Nation. I'm a little upset. I'm a little behooved that of all of us, one's got some chops. M. Reyes, salute, brother. Well done. Well done. Love all you guys. See you next time. Hit that like button for me. I appreciate it. Your boy needs to go grab some grub. I'm getting hungry. All right. Love all you guys. See you next time.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.